What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Happy Friday, gang. Welcome to the show. Little lineup card live. I never actually used the name that I gave this show, whenever that was 2 years ago now. It's in the description every day, I think. I think it goes out on the Twitter link, but I never actually say it. Never actually say my name either. Terry McBride. Hey, what's going on? Good to see you. T McB74 in some places, at Rotoscouts on Twitter. Rotoscouts.com is the website. Check it out if you don't know us. Well, welcome to a Friday show. We got Dimitri here hanging out already. Lone Wolf is here. I'm sure some of the other regulars are out in the chat there or just trickling in. Really interesting slate tonight to talk through. Should be a good one. Larger slate than yesterday. What did we have? 5 games yesterday? Double that tonight. We had 11, but we lost the Coors Field game. If you haven't seen that yet, Coors off the board, which I'm kind of in favor of. There was kind of a tricky pitching spot. Mackenzie Gore was drawing mid-board projections for me, but higher in other places. Chase Dollander's an interesting young pitcher. Was curious to see how he did in his at Coors. But all in all, for DFS purposes, kind of glad we wiped that one off because we've got a number of other big spots. One of them staring us in the face right now. The Orioles pulling a 5+ with the wind blowing out to left up against the homer-prone lefty Andrew Abbott. It all looks good for the Orioles bats. They're going to be popular. We've got a sneaky guy down here as the home run pick of the day. If you know me at all, you probably knew I was going that direction today. I was torn between Mountcastle and Gary, but I went with Gary. You know, that's talking about the home run picks as you use those on the site. You know, I do my best to get them right, obviously. But a lot of times, especially when it comes to the pick of the day, and I say this a lot, like I don't typically use like Aaron Judge. I don't typically use Ohtani, the obvious guys, right? So I'm not saying that these guys are the absolute, best pure lock bet of the day. Otherwise, that pick would be Ohtani, Judge, Jordan Alvarez, and a couple other guys every single day. A day like today, when everybody and their brother is going to be considering the Orioles, I still think Gary's going to slip through a little bit underappreciated. And that's the kind of play I want to highlight. So sometimes I just utilize the home run pick of the day like that. It's always going to be a very viable, good pick, like 7.74 in the home run model for Gary. Doesn't have any yet this year, has barely contacted the ball in 22 plate appearances. But I'm using that spot to make sure that if we're building with Orioles, we're getting at least a few shares of Gary in there. So that's kind of the point of that pick in a lot of ways. So hopefully that comes through. Just to talk about that up at the top, to vamp for a little bit. We've got 12 people here. Let's dive on in. We're starting we got plenty of time. It's a normal post 7 o'clock, 7:05 start today. No 6:35 nonsense, but we'll try and do it in 2 hours for the 10 games, somewhere around that. I started at 3:30. I was going to go at 3:15, but I saw Gundacker was still on, so I wanted to give him a little bit of room. Hopefully it evens out for everybody. But let's take a look at the Vegas board. We'll talk pitching, and then we'll dive into the game by game. All right, so that one's off the board. Again, postponed by weather. I think it's cold. It also said on one thing I saw smog. I think that was the only bad weather spot, though. Oh, it's actual snow. Due to inches and inches of snow per rough. Would have been fun, but also probably not feasible. Yeah, make ground balls interesting. Chasing down liners in the outfield in 4 inches of snow, probably pretty difficult. But yeah, everything else is green. A lot of wind blowing out. Wind blowing out in Baltimore. Wind blowing out in Queens. Wind blowing out in Boston. So some key spots. Boosted a little bit for offense. You can see the Orioles up at a 5.08 implied total against Andrew Abbott. That looks like a really juicy spot there. Definitely think we can pick off some Orioles bats. Like I said, Cade Povich is on the mound for the O's. One decent start and then a couple of bumpy ones. Hasn't been bad for runs, but kind of a young developing pitcher. I don't love that spot going up against the fairly quality Reds lineup. 4+ total for them as well. Could be a little sneaky on the Reds side. They're getting the same bump in the conditions. Yanks at the Rays. This one's lower end than it was yesterday. Yanks still drawing a 4.42 implied total, but you'll see even Aaron Judge is down at like an 8 in the home run model. It's a different situation going up against Drew Rasmussen. Very, very good pitcher. 5 innings in each of his first 3 starts. He's got the Yankees at a reasonable total, but we know how that ballpark's going to play for power. So there is a little bit of a wild card power situation going on there, and two very good power hitting clubs involved. Carlos Rodon on the mound for the Yanks, a little bit more stability, maybe with a bit of a ceiling, but also we know what Rodon's downside can look like on a bad day. We also know that, as evidenced by his game log, we've got a 5 1/3, a 5 2/3, and then 2 6-inning exact performances. So everything hinges on, did he happen to put somebody on base? And that sets the alarm bell off in Aaron Boone's head in the 6th inning, and he hooks those guys. We saw a ludicrous hook yesterday with Will Warren. Granted, he was scuffling in the 2nd inning. He threw like 50 2nd-inning pitches or something. So it's justified getting him out of there. But it was way earlier than the hook that I talked about on the show being potentially in, if he goes 5+, might not get the 6th. It is the same situation with Rodon. He's more than capable of getting through 6. He's more than capable of putting up a 7th if Boone would let him. We'll see if that happens. But I think 6 is on the board. Quality starts on the board, but it's a high danger spot. 417 implied total for the Rays. Mariners, 3.96 implied total going up against the Blue Jays. They're showing a decent amount of power against Bowden Francis. It's an interesting spot. I don't love that lineup. Typically, we're targeting that team for strikeout upside. Bowden Francis, not a terrible pitcher, but also probably not the upside pitcher he looked like at the end of last year. Some up and down performance so far this season. 2 home runs allowed in 2 different games so far is pushing some of that power for Seattle. We'll see what it looks like. But they're kind of mid-board, I think, overall, given that sub-4 total, given how low quality that lineup can be. But I do think there is at least some consideration in a large portfolio of lineups. Then the Blue Jays, just that top-heavy team looking like normal at 4.13. I'm actually kind of surprised it's as high as it is against Brian Wu, who I think is pretty spectacular. Prefer Wu in that equation. White Sox, Red Sox. White Sox going into Fenway with Martin Perez on the mound. He's pushing a huge total toward the Red Sox, plus the wind blowing out. 5.64 is now our highest on the board with no Coors Field there. Sox bats are going to look pretty solid against the veteran lefty. He'll occasionally come out and do Martin Perez things like, put up a blank 6-inning performance in his first game of the season. He faced the Twins. This is exactly what I'm talking about. 6 innings, faced 22 hitters, no hit them over 6. Obviously, no runs came with that. Struck out 9, walked 3. That is a weird, just random-ass Martin Perez start. It could happen. Several of the Red Sox bats are lefty. The key bats are left-handed hitters, so he'll have a little bit of an upside in that. But we're not chasing Perez shares. We're definitely considering some Red Sox bats. They've got some of those funky righties like Rob Refsnyder, who succeeds against lefties. We'll give a look at their lineup, but they're going to be very popular in that spot with that total today and with Coors coming off the board. Cardinals, Mets. The Mets looking fairly interesting. 4.53 implied total there. I don't dislike that. Oh, it's Hunter Dobbins on the mound for the Red Sox, by the way. 1 start in the show, 2 in the minors. I think we're just looking at like 5 innings. In this one, it's Miles Michaelis on the mound for the Cards. David Peterson coming back the other way for the Mets. I think he's pretty interesting. He's got the Cardinals checked down at just 3.5 runs. Got some strikeout upside. Struck out 9 in his first game, 5 in his most recent performance over 6 innings. I think the 6-inning shot is there for a quality start, and I like the run total. I like the upside for the pitcher, and I like the Mets bats going up against a high-contact pitcher like Michaelis. There's definitely upside for that power to come through. Mark Vientos hit his first home run. So we're on the board for some power there finally. So at least some consideration for the Mets at an 8-run total for that game, but 4.5 of it going their way. Twins and the Braves. Similar situation for the Braves. They're showing a mid-4s total going up against Chris Paddock. Going back the other way, the Twins against Bryce Elder. I see no reason not to at least consider some Twins. I disagree a little bit with that total being, I'm much more prone to give David Peterson the benefit here and say that that's correct. Bryce Elder, I don't know. I don't know that 3.70 for at least reasonably talented Twins team is necessarily where it ought to be. So I think there's more upside on the board for the Twins. Big call up in their lineup. I believe Matt Wallner's out, but they called up Keishall. I think that's how you say it, Luke Keishall. So we'll see what he looks like. There's a few call ups on the board today. But anyway, I think these might be a little underappreciated. We'll give them some consideration when we get there. Dodgers, difficult to suppress up near the top of the board, even with a 4.04 implied total going up against Jacob deGrom. We'll see what we get out of deGrom. Just 4 innings, faced 19 hitters in his last one, struck out 4, walked 4. It's been not exactly great depth, not exactly incredibly deep pitch counts, but we know that he can put up a monster fantasy score in just 6 innings with 90 pitches. So a little back and forth on that one. Low total, 7.5 runs, 4.04 on the Dodgers side. They're super low strikeout, as we know. So problematic start in terms of the DeGrom shares. And then the Rangers on their side going up against one of the top pitchers on the board, Yoshi Yamamoto from the Dodgers, keeping them down at a 3.53 implied total. Yamamoto is just very, very expensive, but the strikeout stuff has been engaged. 6 innings in each of his last 2 starts, looking pretty solid. The A's going up against Freddie Peralta, finally suppressed a little bit here. 3.35 implied total for the surging Athletics. The Brewers looking fairly decent at 4.23 on their side, going up against JT Ginn, but he had a decent start in his one outing in the show, and 2 pretty very solid AAA starts for strikeout upside. So maybe a little bit underrated. Maybe we'll give him some consideration in the SP2 role. But Freddie, I think, is worth consideration at the top end. There's a little bit of danger in that lineup, as we've seen. They've been going off like crazy. So Freddie, not entirely safe, but also very, very good. One of the most talented pitchers on the slate. Pods at the Astros, 9-run total there. The Astros pulling just under 5 runs, going up against Kyle Hart. And then it's Ryan Gusto on the mound for probably 4 or 5 innings for the Astros, pushing on 4.11 implied total toward the Padres. I think we're looking at bats on both sides of that one. A lot of quality in both of those teams. Giants, last decent total on the board at 4.48. They're going up against Tyler Anderson, and they've got Logan Webb on the mound, suppressing the Angels' power, suppressing the Angels' runs at 3.61. Think he's very interesting. Think Tyler Anderson, probably not, but there are Ks in that lineup. We'll at least look at him. Pitching board. Simpson call up? Yes. I told you. I didn't mean to get so emphatic about telling you. I think I told you it would be in May sometime. But I told you you'd get up here soon. Yeah, that wasn't me saying like I told you and you were wrong. I don't know where that came from, but I'm very excited about that call up. Chandler Simpson. Fastest man in baseball, as Power said. Dude stole 100 bases in, I forget what it was. ...104 bases in 505 plate appearances in the minors last year. Scored 90 runs in 110 games. 104 stolen bases in 110 games. And he can hit. That's the thing. This is not Billy Hamilton. This kid has a really, really highly regarded hit tool. So far this year in the minors in AAA, over 78 plate appearances. He's only stolen 8 bases, oddly. But 301, 325, 329. Last year, over those 110 games, which was high A and double A, 355, 410, 397. The year before that, 293, 373, 345 over A ball and high A. Traditional scouting has the hit tool graded 60, 70. The speed is 80 across the board already. It's going to be a very interesting hitter. If you go on Twitter and search his name, you'll see there's clips of him out there. Happy you were right. Yeah. I also told you that Chase Meadroth would be leading off before long for the White Sox. I think I said that Monday or Tuesday. He's leading off today. Told you I can manage that team. But yeah, really interesting hitter. You'll see if you search his name on Twitter, you'll see clips of him beating out a ground ball to first base. Little chopper to the first baseman fielded. I was talking about it the other day. First baseman fielded the ball, looked up, and by the time he realized where Chandler Simpson was, he just gave up. He knew he couldn't beat him to the base. Tango Hotel, Tampa's got a bunch of young talent. Wonder how they'll blow it up. Hey, they got years on a lot of these kids, though. That's the thing. They're really, really sharp organizationally, so they've always got a good churn of like, all right, these guys hit their free agency. They're going out. New crop is coming up. And they do it with pitchers. They do it with hitters. It's always been a really sharp organization down there. They have to get over the top, but they're really smart. That's why they're always in contention. That's why they've always got interesting bats. It's going to be interesting to see how this ballpark plays all summer. I mentioned it the other day. That's why they're so front loaded in the schedule too. That ballpark's going to play like crazy when it heats up, and it's also going to be raining all summer long in Florida. So they're very front loaded in the schedule right now. It's going to be weird going through the rest of the year down there. Let's get into this. So, Freddie, top of the board. Tons of ceiling. like I said, not safe against that hard-hitting A's team with some really interesting bats on it. But Freddie's got individual strikeout upside. There are plenty of strikeouts for him to go get in that A's lineup. Top of the board at 96, 95, highly, highly playable. Yoshi Yamamoto, tons of strikeout upside for him. The Rangers kind of mid-board strikeout, low 20s overall strikeout rate. He's just expensive. 11,000, 10-2. He's kind of offset from everybody else. I think I'd rather have Brian Wu for 1,000 less going up against Toronto. Lower strikeout rate overall for that Toronto team, but also much more top-heavy team. That Texas team plays 8-9 deep, where Toronto's really a 3-4 man lineup. So there's a lot less challenge for Wu, and he's very, very good. So I kind of like that spot at 10. I like it at 92. A little bit better when he's projecting out basically the same as Yamamoto. But both those guys very much in play. If you're building a lot of lineups, you want to have shares of both those guys. Logan Webb, extremely on the board. Same kind of conversation. I'd probably rather have him for 98 against a somewhat top-heavy Angels lineup with some Ks in it. He's very good at suppressing power, which is what the Angels do. They've been winning games via home run hitting. 9,000, excuse me. 9,800, 9,000. Very reasonably priced for a super talented pitcher. DeGrom is just difficult with the innings, but at least he's not expensive now. 79 on FanDuel. I think you take some shots. 85 on DraftKings. Projects a little bit better on the DK board. A little bit more like middle of the pack, but also more expensive. I think I like it better for some shots on FanDuel. I just don't know if we're getting the quality start. Matters less, especially if he goes out and strikes out 7 or 8 guys. And if he only gives us 5, but if he gives us 5 clean with a handful of strikeouts, the quality start matters less. There's not really a safe spot at the top. Like with Oakland playing the way that they are and looking like the real deal. Texas, Toronto, the Angels, the Cards, but David Peterson is not Jacob deGrom, Logan Webb, Brian Wu, and so on. So among the very best pitchers on the board, there's really not a safe spot, which I think makes the deGrom argument even stronger. Like there is upside there, comparable given the price discount to the other starters on the board, even going up against the Dodgers, but it obviously hasn't looked the part yet. Carlos Rodon, again, high danger spot against against Tampa Bay rather for him, but 8,100, 8,200 for his ceiling for a good strikeout pitcher with some strikeout upside in that lineup. I don't hate that spot. I just don't really trust Carlos Rodon, but I'll play him. Drew Rasmussen against the Yankees, a lot of similar there. Tons of strikeout upside for him. Good ability to suppress power, maybe suppress the Yankees, keep the home run in the ballpark. We'll see what the sequencing and everything for the Yankees look like. They're very good at that aspect of hitting as well. But Rasmussen for 86, 83 on the board. Bowden Francis, 78, 73. The price is definitely right to find out which side of that is correct. Like I said, we're seeing a little bit of offensive upside in the model for Seattle, but I think at those prices, there's enough ceiling for him on a good day to chase him against that team too. So we'll both sides that equation for sure. Bryce Elder, I'm really not a big fan of, but he projects out okay for the money at 68, 65. We'll consider him. Hunter Dobbins, I don't think you're getting enough depth, but maybe we'll take a look. Andrew Abbott, with all that upside for offense showing pretty clearly in that game with his obvious flaws, I don't think I'm going there at 8,000, 8,100. Tyler Anderson against the Giants, we could argue for a little bit of upside for price. 76, 7,000, much more so as an SP2 on DraftKings. Same thing with JT Ginn. We'll go through the minor league numbers. I'm probably drawing a line around Chris Paddock. 61 on FanDuel, 6,000 on DraftKings. There is some playability there. He was bad in the first one and the second one, I want to say, and decent in the most recent one. We'll pull up the game log in a sec and take a look at what the numbers have been. Not great. But he's very low cost. There are strikeouts in that Braves lineup, but there's also a lot of quality, a lot of power in that lineup. Cade Povich, pretty hard knowing those conditions, and then Gusto, Michaelis Perez, etc. Pretty much knows, and those bottom 2 guys are off the board. Hit the like button as we get started. Subscribe to the channel. Mariners lineup is in. I'll grab that. That's the only new one that's come out for this slate. What do you guys like out there today? Who are you on pitcher-wise out of everybody I just ran through? Larry said, why was Terry yelling at me? Told you, you idiot. The hell, man. Sitting there saying he wasn't getting called up. Oh, they want to develop the hit tool this year. Yeah, I remember your comments, Larry. Yeah, like I said, I'm just excited because he's on the dynasty team, and I desperately need some stolen bases, and that's the source. Paid $1 to keep him. I picked him up at the end of last year so that I could have him this year. Anyway. All right. So again, the wind blowing out pretty severely to left field should benefit right-handed power in this game too. Lefties on the mound should benefit right-handed power in this game. The O's have a 5+ implied total against Andrew Abbott. He checks in with a 26.3% strikeout rate in his one start. I'll pull up the game log and tell you exactly what that was. 5 strikeouts, gave up 1 home run, faced 19 hitters over 5 innings. I think reasonable to expect 6 innings if all goes to plan for Andrew Abbott. But he gave up that 1 home run last year, over 138 innings in 25 starts. He was just a 19% strikeout pitcher with way too many walks, had a 4.91 xFIP under a 3.72 ERA, so he wasn't nearly as good as it looked like on the back of the baseball card. A lot of barrels, a lot of fly balls. Not so problematic in the hard hit department, but everything else about this adds up to that 4+% home run rate, which is where our target is. Stuff Plus doesn't love the arsenal. He doesn't induce all that many swinging strikes, doesn't throw enough strikes in general. Year before, 109 1/3 over 21 starts, 3.5% home run rate that, given these numbers, could easily have been 4+, 4.5%. Again, was lucky on his ERA compared to the xFIP, 4.5 xFIP versus a 3.87 ERA. 26% strikeout rate that year, but again, too many walks. Was definitely better for K's for swinging strikes that season, but still pretty weak CSW, too many walks, too many opportunities, just equals O's bats for me. So 81, 8,000. I think we say no thank you to Andrew Abbott here. And then Cade Povich, at least is cheap. 20% strikeouts over his first 3 starts over 15 innings, just a 4.3% walk rate. That's a very nice little tidy strikeout to walk, even with the low strikeout rate. You can make that work. Just 2 Ks in his last game. He gave up 2 earned on 7 hits over 4 2/3 to Toronto, faced 21 hitters, gave up a home run in that game. Wasn't bad, but also wasn't good. Middle game against the Royals, he went 6. He allowed 4 runs, but only 1 of them earned. It came on 12 hits. He struck out 4. He walked none. Kind of a deceptive start there. 1.50 ERA for that game, but a 4.06 xFIP for that game. And then his first start was just 4 1/3. It was against Boston. 3 earned on 5 hits. Walked 2, struck out 8. That was a good strikeout performance, obviously. 6.23 ERA, but a 1.69 xFIP in that one, a 0.69 FIP in that game. So it was actually his best start of the season, the game he gave up the most earned runs in. A little bit of up and down. Kid has talent. He's a pitcher they like and want to develop, but not necessarily a great spot. Reds flashing a lot of righties at him. There are righties with plenty of power in this lineup as well. Manny McLean looking pretty solid up at the top of the lineup. Ellie's a switch hitter. You get him from the right side. Austin Hayes gets a ton of power from the right side. Spencer Steer, Jamer Candelario, at least mid-board power. So a lot of threat here that might be going a little bit underappreciated on the red side of this game. 4+ implied total for them is enough for April baseball. So I think we could chase bats over here too. MLB late to the news. Just sent the push notification about Chandler Simpson. So if you're starting a red stack, I mean, there's 2 very obvious pieces in Manny McLean and Ellie De La Cruz. 53, 56 for those 2. It's a little bit expensive on FanDuel with McLean checking in at 33, Ellie at 39. That's slightly cheaper on a $3,600 average, but it's a very high price starting point. The good news is everybody else in this lineup is cheap. Literally everybody in the lineup is inexpensive. So if you just top 5 man it, it's $4,000 a piece for a lineup that includes McLean, Ellie, honestly, Austin Hayes and Spencer Steer are pretty appealing in this spot. Santiago Espinal is whatever. You can lop him out of the equation. You get first and third on both Spencer Steer and Jamer Candelario, so you can back and forth those guys positionally, or you can grab them both and it's not a disadvantage. That only goes up to 42 a piece. Highly playable, highly combinable. A little bit of slip down around the bottom. Has DraftKings added Noelvi Marte to the board yet? I don't think they have. Oh, maybe they did. Hold on one sec. Grab a new salary sheet here. DK's been a little bit behind the behind FanDuel as far as some of the call ups to young players, but let's see. I guess they dropped them in. Maybe they did that when they went in and changed the board because the Colorado game came off. Gave him an opportunity to change things. Yep, there he is. Cool. So Marte at just 3,000 is at least interesting. 8 plate appearances so far. He's stolen a base. Got pinched for performance enhancers. We'll see what the actual talent looks like. Over the plate appearances we saw last year, wasn't very high end. 242 opportunities, 210, 248, 301, just a .92 ISO, 092 ISO, 4 homers, 9 steals. Supposed to be a lot better than that. In 123 plate appearances a year before, he was 316, 366, 456. Looked like the real deal. So maybe the truth is somewhere in between, and he's a fairly talented kid, but not a star. We'll see. Right now, just very cheap at third base. Playable, but you do have other options at the position. You've got at least 3 other options at the position on both sites. Multi-position eligibility galore on this team. Fair prices, though. A lot of swappability here. Matty McClain, 3 home runs, 2 steals. Ignore the slash line. The 406 xWOBA is what you want to focus on there. He's been mashing 21.7% barrels, 56.5% hard hits. Ellie, 18% barrels, 56% hard hits for him. 3 homers, 4 steals, a 370 xWOBA. You can ignore the slash line for him, even though it's okay. It's not tragic. 162 ISO will come up as long as he continues making the contact that he is, especially with his speed to collect extra base hits. Ellie is a absolute superstar for DFS and in real life. Just pay the price for him. Austin Hayes, 30% barrels over his 13 plate appearances, pretty encouraging. He hit 2 home runs. Was that in the same game the other day? I want to say it was, but maybe not. 462 ISO out of the gate, a 412 xWOBA in the tiny sample. He's always been a decent right-handed bat as far as power, but he's more like mid-board, 8 and change barrel rates, around a 40% hard hit rate, 18-ish home run type of right-handed bat if he's fully healthy. Spencer Steer gives you a little bit of upside for power and speed. 20 home runs, 25 stolen bases, and 656 opportunities last year, but was a little bit sub-average for run creation overall. 96 WRC plus kind of flies in the face of those counting stats. 319 on base, just a 178 ISO. There's definite flaws there. He's no star, but he's good, and for our purposes at price and at position, he's definitely usable. 34-25, outfield and second base eligibility on FanDuel, first or third on DraftKings. Candelario switch hitter, 1 home run on the board so far this season, just a 210 ISO xWOBA for him, just a 233 for Spencer Steer. Definitely something to watch, suggestive of that the underperformance so far has been very real, but still small sample. Jose Trevino, not much of a hitter, very, very good catcher. That said, slashing 286, 342, 457, 1 home run. The 296 xWOBA for him tells you what you really need to know. Mix and match quality at the absolute best. Blake Dunn, kind of the same thing in the outfield here. 1 home run, 1 steal on the board. Getting on base at a decent clip, a 339 xWOBA is suggestive that there's a little bit better to come in terms of the slash line. 13% barrels in a small sample is at least okay. You're looking for righty upside. If you're rostering these teams, you do want to, if you're building a bunch of lineups, you do want to get down into the weeds here. We saw Oswaldo Cabrera be one of the key bats from the Yankees last night in a day where they went off for not many home runs, but scored, 6 or 7 at the 6, I think, and were one of the higher scoring stacks in the main slate last night. So you do need to at least work these guys into some combinations. Obviously, your priorities are higher up. On the Orioles side, they're the more high priority team, but they'll also be the more popular team. Gunnar and Tyler O'Neill with 11 plus marks in the home run model, looking very appealing. But we've also got a lot of right-handed power in this lineup. 15.6% barrels on Ryan Mountcastle, 55.6% hard hits. Do not ignore that option. He's the home run pick in the team by team from the Orioles today. I was very back and forth, like I said, about making either him or Gary Sanchez a few spots later the home run pick overall of the day. I went with Gary. 7.74 in the home run model. Talked about it at the very beginning of the show. He's just super cheap. Sometimes I'm going to use that pick to highlight guys that need to be rostered if you're going to these highly owned teams. Gary is definitely one of them with his power upside. He has never been bad for power. He's never been bad for premium contact. He hits home runs off of bad left-handed pitchers. Andrew Abbott is at least a average left-handed pitcher. So we'll see what Gary comes away with. But at 21, you want shares at catcher on DraftKings. It sucks that there's the positional conflict with Adley. Less of a problem on FanDuel, but it's there. So you do have to consider using the util spot. You get Adley today in the leadoff role for just 49 on DraftKings. That's very, very appealing. That's the catcher you want more of. Do not mistake me. But Gary is very playable at 2,100 against this pitcher in this park in these conditions. Adley has 3 home runs on the board, just slashing 212, 297, 379. Don't get discouraged by that. The 391 xWOBA tells you all you need to know. The power is extremely real for Adley. If he's going right, the average, the slash line will all come up. Excellent spot for him at the top of the lineup, hitting ahead of Gunnar. 54.34 is a pretty good price for Gunnar. Hit one out yesterday that didn't even look like he made good contact, but it got over the wall for his first home run of the year. Just knocked over the fan. So he's got one on the board this season, just 300 xWOBA in the small sample, but we're not going to worry about Gunnar. He's perfectly fine. And again, a little bit cheap here. Tyler O'Neill, definitely cheap for his upside. Definitely cheap for the 11.15 in the home run model, the 18% barrels he's put up this year. He's got 2 home runs on the board, a 370 xWOBA with a 224 ISO. He's mashing. We just haven't seen the absolute upside from the home run total come around. It will. As I've said multiple times this week, if he continues hitting like this, we'll see 30 home runs out of him. Ryan Mountcastle, again, the contact has been ridiculous. The price is very cheap at first base, $3,900, $2,700. You don't have Ryan O'Hearn for the positional conflict today with the lefty on the mound. So fire away with Ryan Mountcastle shares in the cleanup spot. Really like the upside for power there. Cedric Mullins, surging to start the season, 291, 443, 600, a 386 xWOBA. His career runs 104% better than average while hitting 4 home runs, stealing 3 bases. Love the start from Cedric Mullins, a player I just like. Fairly low strikeout, slightly a couple points below average each of the last few seasons, and just counting stat upside across the board. And if he's going to hit anything like this, it's not going to be 291, 443 through the season. It's not going to be the slug either. But if he can hit, 250, 260 plus, get on base at like a 330, 340 clip, it's going to be a very valuable season from Cedric Mullins. 5,000, the price is going up on both sides, 3,500 on FanDuel. Jordan Westberg, price is a little bit cheap, 47.28 for the upside. 3 home runs on the board. The 352 xWOBA was what you want to focus on here. Ignore everything else. 18 homers last year and 447 plate appearances, a 216 ISO. Jordan Westberg is going to be absolutely fine. The 13.3% barrels are higher than they were last year. 42% hard hits in the small samples, a little bit down. Everything's going to come around on that contact. Get him while he's cheap. Put him at second base. Gary's a masher. I'm going to say it one more time. Put him in your lineups. Heston Kjerstad, 3,500, 2,400 against the lefty. Maybe a little bit of diminishment there. He does have 2 home runs on the board, a 367 xWOBA overall over his 46 plate appearances. Very playable piece here and there. And if we blow up Andrew Abbott, we're getting into the bullpen pretty quickly. Jorge Mateo at the bottom of the lineup for 21, playable. 24 with 3 position eligibility, playable. You want him more at second base, I think, than shortstop, but he's loosely usable at short. What you get out of Mateo is definite speed. He's got 3 stolen bases despite a .071 on base percentage this season. Last year, he only stole 13. He hit 5 home runs over his 208 plate appearances. Was better the year before with 7 and 32 over 350. 13 and 35 over 533 was maybe his best season for counting stats the year before that. That's always like the ideal of Jorge Mateo is like 12 to 15 home runs, 35 to 40 stolen bases, but he's never there for the full season. He's a part-time player. You just need to pick off the right day with him. So you can throw a few shares in his direction. You can see the power's not completely dead, but it is the lowest on the team. The speed upside, if he turns on one, if he doubles, there's upside there for the money. He is a functional wraparound piece back to the top of the lineup as well. Orioles bats, Reds bats. If you have to roster a pitcher, it's probably Cade Povich, despite Andrew Abbott being maybe the higher end talent right now. Just Cade Povich for the money, but I shy away from these conditions against these 2 lineups today. Joker's over here excited about it. Tango, fair point, yeah. And that's something I was talking about yesterday, and let me pull that back up, actually, because I didn't talk it through. So, yeah, Tango points out with Gary and Adley on the slate, plus Ryan Mountcastle, you can't go all 3 of those guys in a lineup on FanDuel, so you have to sacrifice one of them. Same thing as on DraftKings, where you have to sacrifice one of the catchers. The Mountcastle positional conflict doesn't come into it. In one lineup, Tango, probably, unless the price difference really makes a difference on a big upgrade, which it could, given the $1,100, It's Gary on overall talent, overall probability, lineup position, etc. Everything about the situation, other than the DFS ownership of it, comes down to Mountcastle and Adley. They're the more talented players who will see more opportunity to succeed here. But Gary's going to be lower on than both of those guys. I can pretty much promise you. I'll check. Let me see. I didn't look. I'd be stunned if he's more highly projected. Maybe he is. But anyway, if you're building a bunch of lineups, the answer there is you want to alternate those guys, obviously, in combinations with one another. That's where you play the mix and match game a little bit, and Gary retains his upside there. Yeah. So on FanDuel, Gary in the low single digits, Adley just cracking into double digits. This team's not as popular as I kind of expected. Tyler O'Neill is super popular, so is Jordan Westberg. Everybody else is actually kind of unpopular. That's a surprise. People are getting to the two super obvious righty bats. I feel like these are probably a little low. I think Mountcastle ends up around 10. I think Adley goes higher than the just into double digits that they've got him. But Gary's going to be 3, 5, somewhere around there. And I want to push that up for our people because it is a good power bat and it's going to be sneaky here. And it's cheap, so it buys you something else. So that's the answer, right? There's no right or wrong decision. It's very much it depends what you're doing in that lineup. But for one lineup, your safe play, your straightforward move is just take the two more talented guys who were Adley and Ryan Mountcastle in the two better lineup spots. But what is it, 24? It is only a $300 discount if it's Mountcastle. It's more if you're sacrificing Adley, but even not crazy high. But there is savings there. So if the $300 matters, it's an easy enough pivot. And then in that equation, I would probably keep both catchers. Even though these guys are closer together in the lineup and they're both technically cheaper, you could easily go that route. But I think more people would end up going that route. So I would do what fewer people would do in given the choice and use both catchers. Just trying to game it out. And again, on DraftKings, you just go back and forth with them both a catcher, and it's actually more straightforward. Yankees, as mentioned, cutting the power out of the Yankees. 8.24 for Mr. Judge. I don't know how many times he's been below the magic number this season, but it hasn't been many. Drew Rasmussen yet to allow a home run in 3 starts, 15 innings so far this year. Last year in 28 2/3 over 4 starts, did not allow a home run. Over 8 starts, 44 2/3, just a 1.13% home run rate 2 years ago. 9-degree average launch that year, 6.6 degrees last year. This year up a little bit in the small sample at 12.9, but that's just happenstance. Pretty good at missing barrels, pretty good at keeping the ball down. Also decent strikeout pitcher so far this year, 27.8 against just a 3.7% walk rate. 0.60 ERA, betrayed a little bit by a still sparkling 2.74 xFIP. He's been terrific and is talented. So could give the Yankees problems. He's the exact kind of pitcher, doesn't really walk people. So the high walk rates kind of fade into the background a little bit for the Yanks, and the K's could get exposed. If they're trying to wait out pitches and he's not giving them up, that gets problematic around the strikeouts. So Jazz Chisholm get tossed on a terrible call last night. He was funny after the game. He said, yeah, I'm an emotional guy. Look, I've been working on it. My first season, I got tossed, I think, 6 times. The next year, I got tossed 5 times. It was a blah, blah, blah. It was all the way down to last year, I got tossed 0 times. So now 1 time this year so far. So we're going back up, I guess. But I like that he was aware that, can't really do that shit on balls and strikes. But it was a terrible call. At 83, 86, I think Rasmussen is a high priority pitcher on DraftKings. That price really works over there. 86, very playable on FanDuel, but the danger from the Yankees lineup makes it a little bit more middle of the board. If you're considering Yankees bats, Goldie in the leadoff spot, let's see if we got the confirm. We do. Ben Rice in the leadoff spot. JC Escada hitting 6th. Wow. This is a hell of a lineup the Yankees are putting in today. Ray is not confirmed yet. All right, so it's Rice in the leadoff role. which makes sense. They've been doing that a lot with the lefty. The kid's been outrageous to start the season. 4 for 4 yesterday. Had a great game. 317, 414, 650 to start his year. A 477 xWOBA. Creating runs 104% better than average. He's just like a little Aaron Judge light right here over his 70 plate appearances. Mashing the ball with a 22.2% barrel rate, a 64.4% hard hit. As discussed, the barrels are going to stay high. That's what he does at the plate. They're not going to be this high. But, something in the 13 to 15% range, carry over some power. I don't think he's a 300 hitter for this season. I don't think we're getting anywhere near that kind of on-base skill, that kind of xWOBA. But for right now, he has been absolutely destroying pitchers, and 4,300 in the top spot in the Yankees lineup as a lefty in this ballpark. There is upside there. But again, Rasmussen's good at cutting power out. So just a 4.78 in the home run model for a hitter who multiple times has been over the 10 mark himself tells us what we need to know. 3,400, price is getting up there on FanDuel. 4,300 at first base, though, on DraftKings. Still really, really cheap. So I'm a buyer at Ben Rice on DraftKings. He's just in stacks on FanDuel. I think you go one off Ben Rice on DraftKings, honestly, at that price. I wouldn't just because of Rasmussen's attributes, but it's not a bad option. 65-47 for Aaron Judge. Speaking of not bad options, 7 home runs on the board, a 497 xWOBA, creating runs 161% better than average over 86 plate appearances. Monster barrel rate at 26.4%. One of 3 Yankees hitters currently carrying a 20+% barrel rate. Another 2 guys in the mid-teens, even in this funky version of the lineup. And none of those guys is Cody Bellinger or Paul Goldschmidt, who are both mired at 6.8 and 6.7% barrel rates. One of those guys has been off to a good start. That's Paul Goldschmidt. The other one's Cody Bellinger. 186, 239, 288 for the lefty Cody Bellinger. 276 xWOBA for the former MVP. The other former MVP, 352, 397, 465 with a 390 xWOBA. 1 home run on the board. Not showing a ton of power yet. 113 ISO. Not squaring the ball up. Cody's actually hit the ball harder, but seen poorer results. The truth's probably somewhere in the middle for both hitters. I think you roster either one of them in a Yankee stack. I think you can include both of them in a Yankee stack. They're both still high end. The price is right on FanDuel at $3,000, $2,800, $5,000, $4,700. Similarly priced, but maybe a little bit higher on DraftKings. Very playable pieces of the Yankees lineup. And again, this ballpark is going to play up. Even against pitchers like Drew Rasmussen, you're going to get bad days in this park. So I think there's upside from that might be disguised. The Yankees are at a 4.42 implied total. So Vegas is giving him credit for that. Jazz didn't get our home run yesterday. It's been a couple of days for the home run pick. That's why we're hoping for Gary tonight. 55-34 for Jazz. The price hasn't really come down with the struggles. 169, 272, 451, 355 xWOBA is what to focus on there. The premium contact at 20% barrels is what to focus on. Jazz is very good, and he's a category filler in home runs and stolen bases. It's exactly what we want for DFS. Ideal kind of a player to put at second base, even with the high prices. JC Escada, I mentioned him yesterday. He is a nice story. He made the team out of camp after being a career minor leaguer. He was literally planning on going and driving for Uber again before he succeeded in spring training. I don't think we're getting much of a major league hitter here. So the idea that he's hitting 6th, a little bit weird. He's very cheap. You can use him if you want, but it's not a priority. 4,800, 3,300 for Anthony Volpe. Also not really a priority. 4 home runs, 3 steals, a 239 ISO, and a 319 xWOBA. The xWOBA is right around the average. The WRC plus is well above average. So is that ISO so far. So is the 14.9% barrel rate. I question how much of it remains real. The high strikeouts, we'll see if he continues doubling his walk rate for the season. That would be a big, big benefit. I don't love paying 48 and using shortstop on Anthony Volpe that many times, especially against a pitcher who cuts power out. 3,300 on FanDuel. It's kind of the same thing. Trent Grisham, I know he's off to a good start with 4 home runs, 392 xWOBA. I get it. Solid lefty bat. He's barreled a ton of balls. He's hit the ball very, very hard. Low strikeout so far this year, but 27% each of the last 2 years. So I don't want to get very excited here, but 4,000, 2,900. I think he's playable if you're going to Yankees. I do not think Trent Grisham is the reason to go to the Yankees, though. Ozzy Cabrera, despite the home run last night, continues to not be much of a hitter. He's a mix and match piece. He's only a third baseman on both sides now, which absolutely takes away his value, in my opinion, even at a low price. You really want him for a positional flex around like second base, outfield. Third base really weakens that play. Carlos Rodon, 8,200, 8,100, projects out perfectly fine. 30% strikeouts over his 4 starts, his 23 innings. I mentioned the innings risk with Aaron Boone, especially around the quality start on FanDuel, but he's cheap enough that you just go to it. Even again, we're against this Rays team even in this ballpark, even with their power. 25% strikeouts for these hitters so far this year, a similar rate for a lot of these guys from last year. There's definite upside on the board for Carlos Rodon, and I don't know how popular he's going to be. Ray's pulling a 4.17 implied total against. Rodon struck out 8 in each of his last 2 games. As mentioned at the beginning of the show, he gave up 4 earned on 3 hits, only lasted 5 2/3, and got yanked by Boone with his quick hook. Gave up 2 home runs, walked 3 in that game. He's given up at least 1 home run in every game, which is definitely concerning against this heavily right-handed power hitting lineup in this ballpark. But you take the good with the bad. There are definitely strikeouts there. He's also given up 4 earned runs, 5 earned runs, and 4 earned runs in his last 3 starts. You've gotten 2 6-inning performances and a 5 2/3. We're shooting for 6 innings. We're shooting for some Ks. The price is right to find out with a formerly better pitcher, but still a guy who can break off some good starts. You can see Stuff Plus still likes the arsenal. You can see exactly where the power has been, despite the pretty good launch angle. If you're taking shares of Rodon, I definitely think you want to go maybe on like a 3-1. If you're building 150 lineups for every 3 shares of Carlos Rodon, make sure you got a Ray stack in another lineup. Somewhere around that kind of a distribution. They're not a high priority team, but I can definitely envision success, especially if Rodon struggles with keeping the ball in the yard here. There's obvious power around Junior Caminero, who blasted another one yesterday. 5 home runs on the board for him, a 258 ISO, 364 xWOBA, more importantly, 14% barrels, 52% hard hits. Kid's been mashing, and he is not expensive enough at 42, 3,000 against a lefty who gives up power. No doubt about it. He might strike him out, but Caminero so far in his career has been effectively around the league average strikeout. It's not a problem for him. So tons of upside for the kid at these prices. Curtis Mead, a very solid mix and match option. It sucks that he's first and third base with Johnny Diaz and Junior Caminero being first base and third base respectively. Same deal on FanDuel, except you get Curtis Mead with second base eligibility for just $2,400 over there. So they're a lot more playable. You also get the next 2 hitters in Christopher Morel and Jose Caballero with 3 positions apiece on FanDuel, while Morel is only an outfielder on DraftKings and Caballero is either a shortstop or an outfielder. He's got second base on FanDuel. If you're using Curtis Mead, who's probably the higher end out of those 2 in terms of the talent, if you're using him at second, then you're relegated probably to short for Caballero, which isn't ideal. Between Caballero and Chris Morel, give me Chris Morel every single time. The Mead and Caballero back and forth is a little bit interesting. He'll give you 3 positions, cheap price, 4,000 on DraftKings. I don't love, but I guess it's roughly comparable. The power isn't overly realistic to expect to continue. He's got 1 home run. He's got a 194 ISO in a small sample, but the speed is very real. 5 stolen bases, carrying a 405 on base so far this year. He did hit 9 homers over 483 last year, but he stole 44 bases, which was the focus. That's despite getting on at just a 283 clip. When these guys get on this team, they most certainly run. So there's upside for stolen bases, but again, less power. The 3.30 kind of calls that out, and the home run model emits these 6s, 8s, 9s. Morel, I've talked about loving that swing speed, the high frequency of swing, fast swing, but there's always going to be way too many strikeouts. He's at 41.7%, even with a good start. He's hitting 278, slashing 278, 350, 389 right now, 343 xWOBA. He's got 1 home run on the board. He squared the ball up quite nicely, but that strikeout rate is unsustainably high. And it's kind of odd that he's succeeding as much as he is. If he can manage to cut that back down to even 26%, even 31% in the long term, we'll see a lot of quality bat on ball out of Chris Morel. Always playable. Cheap for the power upside. Danny Jansen's a mix and match righty catcher with a little bit of pop. He's got 1 home run on the board, just a 251 xWOBA, but just a .093 ISO to start his year. Brandon Lau dipping in the projected lineup against the lefty. We'll see where he hits in the lineup. There's always playability there. At 4,900, 2,800, he's not totally ideal against same-handed pitching, but there is going to be continued power upside. If he gets into one against Carlos Rodon, he could easily hit one out, and you'll get him against righties out of the pen at some point. So there's playability. Jake Mangum continues to not be a major league quality hitter, despite the 345, 379, 400. I'm going to keep on saying it until it's true. 7 stolen bases on the year, a 134 WRC plus. Just a light hit tool and a little bit of speed is all you really get there from the non-prospect. Taylor Walls gives you the same thing. 3 stolen bases, very light hitting player, though. 176, 283, 176. Not ideal for a DFS shortstop. Drew Rasmussen, Yankees bats, Carlos Rodon, Rays bats. 4 corners game. All 4 things are playable. Got both of these lineups on the board already. Your guns here. What's going on? Saw you're on before, Gun. I mentioned at the beginning, so I pushed back by 15 minutes for where I was going to drop the show. Went from 3:15 to 3:30. Hopefully, we didn't collide too much today. Since you're here, I imagine we didn't. And I'm only on the third game. So somebody asked, Alan S. asked about Seth Mullins versus lefties in 678 plate appearances versus a lefty as a lefty. He had 18 home runs, 237, 299, 378 with a 141 ISO and an 89 WRC plus versus lefties as a righty. Just 111 plate appearances. Just one home run, pretty weak slash line. He was in the lineup, though, right? That was the confirmed lineup. Yeah. As long as he's here, especially when I don't necessarily expect him to last all that long, I think you're perfectly fine going to Seth Mullins. Not going to worry about it. Cujo's here. What's going on, buddy? Ian Happ home run. Finally getting some life out of Ian Happ. It's been a slow burn to start the year for Mr. Happ for those of us who have him on their dynasty team. Seattle Mariners. So, as mentioned, 2 players over the magic number here for the Mariners, showing a little bit of power upside against Mr. Bowden Francis, who's had a little bit of an issue so far this season with premium contact, power, exit velocity, hard hit rate, home runs. Stuff Plus doesn't really like what he's doing up on the mound. 4.25 xFIP under his 4.76 ERA, slightly better by half a run, but neither of those numbers is particularly good. Just a 21.7% strikeout rate for Francis, 10% walk rate in the small sample of starts. Hasn't looked the part of the quality pitcher we saw over his last handful of starts last year, but also hasn't been completely disastrous. 3 earned runs, 2 earned runs, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, 6 strikeouts, 4 strikeouts, handful of walks in each game. And as mentioned at the beginning of the show, 2 home runs allowed in the last start at Baltimore, 2 home runs against Washington in a home start in his first outing of the year. The middle game, 5 1/3, he gave up 2 earned on 6 hits, no home run allowed, struck out 6, walked 2. That was against the Mets in Queens. 4+ xFIP in every one of the games. It's been a little bit shaky. And that was the question with this pitcher coming into the season. What was the truth? What was he really going to look like? He had the 3.30 ERA based on the good work down the stretch last year, but a 4.17 xFIP underneath it, just a 22.5% strikeout rate. But this versus that 5.4% walk rate is a decent, not spectacular, but decent strikeout to walk. But he allowed 4+% home runs, which is our problematic threshold there. Just a 26% CSW, but managed to keep runners off base with no walks and a .93 whip. So very mixed sample there. So far this year has definitely looked the part of the bad numbers. 13% barrels most notably, 52.2% hard hits, 90+ miles an hour of average exit velo, a 5.8% home run rate with those 4 home runs allowed in 3 games. You're getting them up against a Mariners team that is a bunch of free swingers, but there's also power here. So far this season, 22% strikeout rate for this confirmed version of the Mariners lineup. Last year, this same group of hitters, 24.8%. There's definitely Ks on the board for Bowden Francis to go find. It's a big question mark of whether you get him. At 73, I think you can roll the dice a few times if you're building a bunch of lineups, but he's in no way a high priority pitcher, even against a team that we do like to target. They're pulling a just under 4 implied total. I think there's plenty of justification to give this game another half a run and put them above 4. With Julio in the leadoff spot at a 12 in the home run model, 3 on the board this season, 5 stolen bases. Ignore the slash line at 187, 307, 373. Focus on the 351 xWOBA, 104 WRC plus. Focus on the 51.9% hard hits with a 9.5% barrel rate. Jorge Polanco's got a good slash line if you want something pretty at the top, on the back of the baseball card. 378, 383, 622. 244 ISO to start his year. He's also carrying a 434 xWOBA. He's been mashing 15% barrels. Looking like the best version we've ever seen of Jorge Polanco, which hopefully suggests that for the rest of the season, we'll get like the old version of Jorge Polanco, not the old version of Jorge Polanco. 8.18 in the home run model. Respectable number, definitely playable at third base, 4,000. 3,000, I'd rather have him at second on FanDuel, but I would play him at third depending on what I'm putting them together with. I think they're interesting today. Look at all these high barrel rates. I'll leave Ben Williams off because it's only 11 plate appearances. Everything here means nothing, as we've discussed many times, because it's ridiculously small samples still. But in those samples, this is a group of hitters that has an average barrel rate right now of 15.9% over the 2 through 6. If you include Julio, who we know was 10 plus last year, that's 14.8% for the first 6 hitters in their lineup. Their current average hard hit rate for that group is 48.7%. They're striking out at a 24.4% rate to get there. They're drawing walks, though, too. There's upside for run creation here. Look at these run creation numbers. Top 4 hitters in the lineup are collectively 54% above average for run creation via WRC Plus in small samples. So against a scuffling pitcher who might not be all that great, with definite power upside on the board, I'm kind of interested in some Cal Raleigh for only 4,100, 25% barrels, 50% hard hits, a 12 in the home run model. He's got 8 home runs on the board already this season with a 365 ISO at 395 xWOBA. He's no Tyler Soderstrom, but he's got 8 home runs on the board. Ridiculous. Randy Arozarena, 43-32, 4 homers, 6 steals, looking a lot like the old Randy Arozarena, 415 xWOBA, 161 WRC plus, 12.8% barrel rate. Love it for those prices. FanDuel's got it more correct. DraftKings is low. Luke Raley, tons of lefty pop. 3,200 is cheap for Luke Raley's upside. 2,400 on FanDuel. He's got a 9.46. We're just shy of the magic number. If he had been hitting second today, I guarantee he'd be over it. Guarantee void in perpetuity throughout the universe. Ha! 10.51. I was right again, Larry. I like Luke Raley's bat. 13.5% barrels, 45.9% hard hits this year, 11% and 41.8% last year, 12, 9, 45, 7 the year before. Strikes out a ton, but puts very good bat on ball. Sits a lot against left-handed pitching, but against mediocre righties, he mashes. 22 homers, 11 steals last year. Created runs 29% better than average over 455 opportunities. Had a 220 ISO for the season. Gave me some Luke Raley in this spot. 9.46. Rowdy Tellez, 8.56 in the home run model. It's a little bit more of a stretch right now, but he does have 13% barrels to fall back on. The 47.8% hard hits in his small sample of batted ball events over 39 plate appearances. It's resulted in just 1 home run, just a 268 xWOBA, even more concerningly. He strikes out an absolute ton. He has not walked, and he doesn't really draw that many walks anymore. It's a tough spot, but he's very, very cheap at first base, and you don't have to prioritize Raley to first base. You can easily put him in the outfield. So highly playable Rowdy Tellez, but probably the lowest priority out of the top 6 hitters. Miles Mastroboni, mix and match piece, I'll say. 292, 414, 292. If you're going to this team a lot, you can mix him in at second base, but not a priority bat. Ben Williamson, 22, 21, 273, 273, 273 over his 11 plate appearances. We looked him up the other day, right? Wasn't he just hit tool and speed? Yeah, hit tool and speed. 283, 375, 394 with 19 steals in the minors last year at 23. So still a young guy, but not a high priority bat and probably not the best way to kill third base. And then J.P. Crawford struggling again so far this year. The nice thing here is the 391 on base supported by the 338 xWOBA. You'd hope that continues because that was his positive attribute in the past. Last year was just burnt. But the year before, 380 on base against a total of 19 home runs, scored a ton of runs. He was valuable for that team. Created runs 34% better than average. So we need to watch this and that and see where it goes. But those are at least good signs for the start of a season that otherwise doesn't look great. I think he's playable at 28-23, but probably not your best investment at shortstop. Brian Wu is terrific. 9,200, 10,000. I am interested. I will definitely roster some shares of Brian Wu, even against a low strikeout Blue Jays squad. As we've talked about a bunch of times, this is a crazy top-heavy team. The bottom of this lineup is very weak. There are some strikeouts down lineup. But the key hitters up top, Bo Bichette, Vladdy Guerrero, Andres Jimenez, George Springer to some degree, low strikeout guys. Even Anthony Santander is medium strikeout, 19% last year, 23 the year before, 21 so far this year. Brian Woo's checking in with a 24.3% strikeout rate and 11.3% swinging strike rate, which is pretty juicy over his 19 innings. His 3 starts so far this year. That's right around the same swinging strike rate as last year. The strikeouts overall are up in the tiny sample. We'll see where they land. But what's terrific about Woo is just look at it. He's the mold for what these Mariners look for and how they develop these pitchers. 21.4% Ks against a 2.8% walk rate. They've got multiple guys who put up numbers like this. Logan Gilbert. It's what they do organizationally. 2.89 ERA with a 3.75 xFIP. He, like Bryce Miller, a little bit higher in the xFIP department than the ERA last season. Got a little bit lucky with some of the results, over 121 and a third. But there's a very high-end pitcher who's very, very good at keeping guys off base. He's also good at limiting power, just 4.8% barrels allowed last season, 35.2% hard hits, sub 3% home run rate. That can be a little bit wonky, but he's off to a similar start so far this year in the small sample. Everything about Woo so far just looks like a continuation of last year in the early returns. So happy to pay for him, even against this low strikeout team. I don't know that I'm considering that many stacks of Blue Jays. I think that much of Brian Woo that I'm really not looking at them that hard. If you're going there, Vladdy and Santander are priorities at 9+, and it's honestly probably just the straightforward 3-man off the top. Or if you want to stretch to 5, it's just straightforward. It's 1 through 5. Those are their good hitters. If you're going crazy with Blue Jays stacks for reasons because they'll be low owned at a 4+ implied total against Brian Woo, you can make some arguments for why you could go there a little bit for DFS reasons. But that's where you would start wanting to work in the bottom of the lineup a little bit for mixers and for differentiation purposes and to alleviate some of the cost. Not that these guys are all that expensive, but it gets really thin around Addison Barger, Alejandro Kirk, Will Wagner, Alan Roden. Roden's at least gotten himself up to 265, 351, 388, showing a little bit more life. But that 251 xWOBA is staring us in the face right now, saying that even, that uptick in performance is not very real. 1 home run on the board, mix and match piece for 24-21 from the bottom, and you wrap him around and hope that he's serviceable ahead of the guys that you actually want up top. Kirk is a moderately playable catcher. Medium power, low strikeout rate, so you get decent bat on ball from time to time. 1 home run, but just a 265 xWOBA over his 57 plate appearances. Last year, he had 5 in 386 plate appearances while slashing 253, 319, 359. Creating runs 6% worse than average, a 106 ISO. Really not a lot of quality. And these are larger sample. I mean, I'm considering last year when I say not a lot of quality on those guys. So it's really about these top 5. Andres Jimenez, we're already down to 203, 300, 377. The 344 xWOBA is keeping any kind of expectations alive, but he's never really been a power bat. It's just about placement for this hitter. So you're talking about a singles hitter and a stolen base guy who's mediocre at getting on base. Now they've got a miscast hitting cleanup. They're still asking for 4,600 at second base for him, 3,100 on Fan. It's just a weird fit against an excellent pitcher. I don't really get it. And that I'm not totally crossing Andres Jimenez off because you need bats if you're going to this team at all, but there's very little appeal. Once upon a time, one of the top prospects in the game never really arrived. Last year, 633 plate appearances. That's a full season. You can't say anything about that opportunity. Sub 300 on base, stole 30 bases. Sure, great. Congratulations. That didn't give us much DFS value. 0.087 ISO and 83 WRC plus the year before. Also a fairly full sample. At least he hit a little bit more power. 15 home runs, 30 steals, just a 147 ISO, 97 WRC plus, a sub 400 slug. This is not an overly valuable player and not a cleanup hitter. As we've discussed, I get what they're seeing him as. On base, 2 base clearers, and then reset the table. But you're not resetting the table for anyone. So you might as well not use him in that role. Springer's off to a good start with the slash line, 375, 436, 604, 229 ISO on the board, a very appealing 408 xWOBA. We hope that he keeps this up. It at least gives them another bat and a player that's just valuable for DFS over the course of his career. 16.7% barrels, 50% hard hits, coming off a down season last year. I like the resurgence. I'm definitely a buyer if I'm going to Blue Jays. That makes my 4-man, really. So I'm going top 3 plus Springer. And then you work in Jimenez on the DraftKings slate. Vladdy has a home run on the board finally. 292, 373, 389. He'll be absolutely fine. The 30 home run power will be there. 11.5% barrels, 54.1% hard hits, looking a lot like what he was last year. No issues whatsoever with Vladdy. Bobichet's off to a good start, getting on base. 412 xWOBA is fantastic. 117 WRC plus. Hasn't shown much power yet, but he's doing what we need him to do at the top of this lineup. And then Santander, only 2 home runs. Kind of a slow start to his Blue Jays career coming off the monster season last year. But he's a terrific home run hitter. 44 last year, 28 the year before, 33 the year before that. There's a lot of power there. But it's very much a 3-man, 4th, 5th, and then bleh. Brian Wu, Mariners bats. Bowden Francis valued darts, but not a priority. And then Blue Jays bats. I have the Blue Jays a little bit lower than I think what Vegas is seeing them as. Take that for what it's worth. God damn, it's 440 already? Not for quite a bit longer. End of May somewhere, 200 plate appearances for hitters. For pitching, we can get there a little bit quicker. Hitting takes a while to normalize. Some things like strikeout rate, walk rate normalize quicker than others, but really you want like 200 plate appearances. And even then, it's still dicey. Memorial Day. Yeah, that's a reasonable spot. I think that's like the end of May, right? I think. I don't know. Whenever Jaws is on TV, right? Once you see Jaws on AMC, then you can start being like, oh, let me look at what people's numbers look like. Those two things kind of coincide every summer. The White Sox. So, like I said, Chase Meadroth landing in the leadoff spot. I think we called that out on Tuesday. Getting on base at a 409 clip over his first 22 plate appearances. Just 235 on the front end of that should come up. What he's not is a power bat. He is a ludicrously patient hitter who will just stand there and not swing the bat. He will take advantage from time to time as he's waiting out bad pitching and maybe try and turn on one. He doesn't have much natural power, but maybe you can pick off a couple oddball home runs via that. But what he should definitely be is a very high quality table setter in a terrible lineup. There's no Lou Bob in the lineup today. I think you just kind of scratched the White Sox off the board, but I at least wanted to talk Chase Meadroth, but followed by Andrew Benintendi, one of the worst hitters of baseball, Lennon Sosa, Joshua Palacios, Andrew Vaughn. Vaughn would be your second most appealing hitter down there, hitting 5th. He should probably be hitting 2nd today. Or 3rd, I guess, if you wanted to do that. I would probably front-loaded the 2 righties and then Benintendi or Palacios or whoever. Honestly, probably Matt Face would have been my 3-hitter, but it's such a bad team. There's so little to work with. But Meadroth, excellent hit tool, excellent plate discipline. Not a lot of pop in the bat, but we should see some on-base skills, some runs scored, some stolen bases. But he's just a correlation piece in a stack that you don't really want here. Hunter Dobbins at 69.82. I think on DraftKings, you got to at least consider it as a cheap option. He made a start for the Sox on the 6th. He faced St. Louis. He went 5 innings, faced 24 hitters. He gave up 8 hits, 2 earned runs, struck out 5, walked 2. Not a terrible outing. 3.60 ERA, 3.66 xFIP under the covers. In the minors, he made 2 appearances. Neither was a start, if I remember. Yeah, neither one was a start. 3 innings and 3 2/3 bulk relief appearances. One on April 1st before that major league start. One on the 13th. So about 5 days fully rested after that 3-inning appearance. Struck out just 2 in each of those. He gave up 1 home run in the most recent appearance against Cleveland's AAA affiliate. More concerningly, in the first game against Miami's AAA affiliate, he gave up 3 home runs. Those were it was 3 home runs. The only 3 hits he allowed, 5 earned runs total, struck out 2. Don't really know that we've got much upside to speak of on Hunter Dobbins outside of the idea that we did see him strike out 5 better major league hitters than anyone that the White Sox are going to throw up there today in that game against the Cardinals. So if you're looking for 5 cheap innings of like 2-run ball with 5 to 6 strikeouts, maybe, then I think this is loosely in play. I do not think that this is in play. 8,200 is a big ask for this pitcher. Even against this lineup, you're going to want the quality start with other guys that are much better at comparable prices. So kind of off the board on FanDuel. He projects out okay, but I think this is like the limits. I don't think there's much ceiling on that projection. And where you only get one bite at the apple, it just plays differently. Over here, if he doesn't go complete nuclear ceiling, you don't really worry about it. You just need adequate for the money as an SP2. Martin Perez, I don't think you go there. Definitely not at that price. Wind blowing out in Fenway. The Red Sox drawing a 5.64 implied total against. Everything working against Martin Perez here, except for the fact that he is the wily lefty veteran, crafty lefty at this point in his career. Does give you some depth upside. Went 6, as mentioned in that first game against the Twins. He struck out 9 in that game. He no-hit them over 6 innings. That's his weird start for the beginning of the year. Odds are we're not going to see another one for a while. 6 1/3 in the second start. He gave up 4 hits. He allowed 1 earned run. Struck out 4, walked 2. Much more limited outing, but you did get the quality start. That was against the Tigers at Detroit. You got him into the 7th inning. So the depth is there, fully stretched out, and it's not like they're worried if he blows his arm out. They just move on. 4 2/3 in the most recent outing. 2 earned runs allowed. Struck out 5, walked 4. We're seeing the decline. That was against this same Red Sox team. That was in Chicago. It's weird that they've played each other twice already. We've seen a couple of the kind of weird scheduling to start the season with multiple teams playing each other multiple times already. So we already saw him struggle with this lineup. I think he struggles even more this time out. Big total on the Red Sox side. If you want to throw a couple darts over 150 lineups at 7,600 on DraftKings, I wouldn't begrudge you those shares, but it's probably not a move that I would make. I really don't see it working out all that well all that many times here for Perez. What he does have on his side typically against the Red Sox is that some of their key bats are lefties. They didn't include most of those key bats today. You just have Jaron Duran and Rafi Devers, who we're not going to sweat the lefty-lefty against this pitcher with. 1 home run apiece for those guys, both mired in slow starts. 304 xwOBA for Jaron Duran. He hit that home run earlier this week. He's also stolen 6 bases, but just an 82 WRC plus. Rafi Devers, 358 xwOBA is a lot juicier than what Duran's put up so far. It's supportive of the barrels and the hard hits, 18.8 and 60% so far from Devers. Supportive of the 10 plus in the home run model for the lefty, even against the lefty. Nothing wrong with either of those hitters in this spot if you're going to the Red Sox, which they're going to be popular. They're going to be highly appealing here. Alex Bregman at 49.32 gets us started with a run of right-handed hitters that has some quality. Bregman I like. Story I like. You guys know I'm excited about the start for Trevor Story as long as he can stay healthy. 3 home runs, 6 stolen bases so far, a 331 xwOBA, nice and tidy, 116 WRC plus, 11% barrels and 54.7% hard hits. He's making great contact up there. Trevor Story, still very good at baseball when he's healthy. 45.29 is not expensive enough for him hitting cleanup against a bad lefty on a day where it looks like explosive upside for the Red Sox. I expect he's going to be pretty popular. Romy Gonzalez, 36.27. Primarily gets in there against lefties. So far this season, 50% hard hits, hasn't barreled the ball yet, but he's off to a 409, 485, 91 start, 323 xwOBA. His career runs 100% better than average, 107% in the tiny sample. But last year, notably, 8.3% barrels, 50.3% hard hits. Not bad. 11 home runs in 6 home runs in 216 plate appearances. I'm skipping down the line. 266, 306, 417. Creator runs 3% worse than average, a respectable on a 151 ISO. He's a playable piece for a very cheap price in a lineup that you're going to go to. So he's like the Oswaldo Cabrera play from the Yankees, like I mentioned. He hit a key home run yesterday, was critical for DFS success in Yankee stacks. Romy Gonzalez could play a similar role today. Projects out a little bit better for overall DFS scoring maybe than power, but there's a little power showing as well, given his barrels, given his hard hits. Robbie Resnider, big time success over time against left-handed pitching. Most of these plate appearances from last year were in this side of platoon. 283, 359, 471, a 188 ISO, hit 11 oddball home runs, had a 130 WRC plus, one of the better marks on the team. Year before, also mostly against lefties, 248, 365, 317. He was fantastic at getting on base that year, but I harped on it all season because he would get popular that season, that he was just good at getting on base that year. Last year, the power arrived a little bit more. He was more interesting in that role last season. We'll see what we get. 9.7% barrels. He was consistently squaring the ball up. So you got to give him at least a little bit of credit. But he's mostly a replacement level platoon type hitter in general for his entire career. Christian Campbell's off to a great start. 302, 392, 508 for the very interesting rookie. 373 xWOBA, supported with a 206 ISO. Creating runs 55% better than average. He's been their best or second best player to start the season, or maybe third best, but right there. Excellent option at second base on either site for 41.29. Honestly, the sites have not priced him up commensurate with his talent and his start to the season. This is exactly what he's supposed to be. So love the start. Really like the price on a team that we're going to be going to. The hope would be that he remains a little bit under-owned compared to some of the guys up top. Let's see where he's at on DraftKings. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Rotoscouts.com is the website. Under $1 a day for access to baseball projections, the home run model, home run picks, top stack rankings for baseball. You also get, for that same less than $1 a day, every NBA main slate through the playoffs, every NHL main slate through the playoffs. NHL off today, NBA 2 elimination games tonight for the play-in tournament. Those are up on the website, projected right now. I'm going to be on top of any updates. Hopefully nothing funky like Dinwiddie not playing for Dallas comes through. I've got him, I think, at 2 minutes today. Don't expect much from him, but DNP'd us the other day, or played 2 minutes the other day when we expected him to play. So that was annoying, but hopefully in general, more stable playoff type rotations, big minutes for the top of the rotations. Those are up on the website. Same $1 a day gets you access, or less than $1 a day gets you access to all of it. So let's see. Yep. Mid-single digits ownership on Christian Campbell. Really interested. Duran and Devers, honestly, not drawing the ownership you would expect given the lefty on the expect given the high total, because there's a lefty on the mound. They're both in the sub 10% range in those projections as well. So, Rafi Devers, for his career against same-handed left-handed pitching, 264, 319, 414. The ISO drops significantly down to 151, but that's still an effective bat. Just a 96 WRC plus is a little bit underwhelming. 36 home runs in 1,300 plate appearances. So the power goes out for sure. That's where some of your WRC plus goes, but he's not unplayable against this lefty. And with his ownership down, if you're going to this team, that makes him more appealing, especially if they chase Perez early, or if Perez is out there struggling. I don't think there's any reason in the world to not go to Duran and Devers here with their ownership numbers down. Let the public do that. That's the kind of situation you want to take advantage of. Jarren Duran in 373 same-handed plate appearances, 5 home runs, 3 triples, slashing 238, 293, 326. Also diminished for sure. 210 ISO goes down to 0.088. Just a 70 WRC plus. He's further down the board, I would say, than Devers. But again, against this lefty, I'm not going to just write him off. I think there's playability there, given that the ownership is down, given that the public is not going there. And last year, he went up to 255, 319, 346. The ISO was still low at 0.091. Didn't hit for power and was 14% below average for run creation. But at least we got on base a little bit more. Made a few more things happen. Made him like Sedan Rafaela. 4 home runs in that sample last year. So most of the power upside came last season in 230 same-handed plate appearances. So again, not dead. We're looking for Jarren Duran to get on base, set the table for the guys that follow. It's all right. First time through, he singles, Rafi strikes out or whatever, and then Story Bregman goes off along with some of these guys down to Christian Campbell, who's too low owned. And then the second time through, Rafi puts some good wood on the ball and drives one over the monster, and Martin Perez is out of the game. Easy. 5.64 implied total for the Sox today. Sedan Rafaela, who I mentioned a minute ago, all he does is really provide counting stats, was below average overall. But if we're considering Jarren Duran in kind of the same situation when he results in being that kind of a hitter against same-handed pitching, you get to at least work with Rafaela. 15 home runs, 19 steals from the bottom of the lineup last year. 4 steals, no home runs, pretty weak slash line, pretty bad xWOBA so far this season. But there's counting stat upside for sure. Carlos Narvaez mix and match quality catcher. So priority bats, for sure right there. I think Christian Campbell, especially at price and ownership, is another high priority bat. And then I'm just grabbing the two lefty stars. Give me those three righties. These two are going to be popular, but they're fairly priced. It's a very big upside spot for the Red Sox bats. Would not roster Martin Perez even for price against, honestly, like I said, at 76, you're just throwing darts at 94. It makes no sense off FanDuel. Red Sox bats, really nothing from the White Sox at all. A couple oddball shares of White Sox bats if you really want them. And again, if you're going there, it's Meadroth and Vaughn, and then whatever one other guy you like, just play the price and position game there, but nobody's worthwhile. There are no other good hitters in this lineup. So do with that what you will. I'm not going to waste our time on the White Sox here. Yes, I know that low ownership can equal success, blah, blah, blah. The probability on those White Sox coming through, even against that pitcher, is so low without their best player. You've got multiple positional conflicts here with multiple second basemen, multiple first basemen. The third best player in this lineup is the 9 hitter, even with bad numbers so far this season. Michael A. Taylor is probably the third best hitter in this lineup. So 159 stacks. It's ugly. Brooks Baldwin's a mix and match quality contact hitter. 245, 255, 388 to start the season. 20% worse than average grading runs. Vaughn's where some of the power is. Meadroth where the hit tool and some patient at bats are. I'm taking way too much time with this slate. Whoops. Victor Scott at the top of the lineup for the Cards. One of the last, this one didn't work out, smash it on the floor molds before Chandler Simpson gets here. He does have 7 stolen bases on the season. He's getting on at a 338 clip. This was the version of Chandler Simpson that we were excited about 2 years ago. He had a big total of stolen bases. I forget exactly what it was in the minors. Came up last year, gave us 155 really bad plate appearances, 179, 219, 283. Did not look the part of a major leaguer at all. Is off to a much better start this year and was a competent hitter in the minors, but doesn't have the hit tool like Chandler Simpson does. You're just looking at him to get on base, which he's been doing successfully, but the 266 xWOBA completely betrays any of the quality that we're seeing in the slash line so far. Just getting a little bit lucky over 69 plate appearances, in my opinion. You're just chasing stolen base upside there, and the on base is going to come and go pretty dramatically. David Peterson is a high priority pitcher on this slate. He's a very talented lefty. Victor Scott is also left-handed. I do not like how that adds up. Luken Baker, on the other hand, 2,600, 2,400. If we're looking for a righty to drive the ball against this pitcher, Luken Baker is interesting. 10.5% barrel, 63.2% hard hits over 28 plate appearances, handful of batted ball events. Same thing in a small sample last year, a lot of hard hits, handful of barrels. Kids hit for power in the minors. No home runs on the board, but 280, 357, 360 over that sample. 337 xWOB is a little bit above the average, suggestive of power upside to come. He's a playable piece, but he's a positional conflict with Wilson Contreras, who fits in at first base for just 3,600. Like I've said a couple times, Contreras is a diminished hitter at first base compared to how he maps out against other catchers when he's got catcher eligibility like he used to have. Now at just first base, we need him at that low price. As long as he's down there price-wise, it levels the playing field with the star caliber, expensive power hitting first baseman, because he is still a very good bat despite the terrible start to this season. 290 xWOBA betrays what I just said there. 139, 195, 222 does as well, just a 22 WRC plus. Last year over 358 plate appearances, 262, 380, 468, a 206 ISO, 15 home runs. 20 home runs on the board the year before with a 203 ISO, 127 WRC plus. That's what I mean. These are not killer home run totals. These are not killer. They're good, above average ISOs, power hitting ISOs, but those are not killer totals for first base for power. So he plays a little bit differently, but still very playable at that price. Playable at this price, and the position's the same, so it doesn't matter as much. Nolan Arenado, 44.32. The price is going to continue to go down because the numbers are going to continue to go down. That swing remains broken, concerning, but grab the righty bat against the left-handed pitcher, and you hope for the best if you're stacking up cards. But that 357 total is telling me that we're not going Cardinals today. Brendan Donovan, lefty, mix and match piece at best, 44.31. You get multi-position eligibility, some hard hits hits, some barrels for sure from Donovan, but he's overperformed his talent so far this season at 373, 407, 533. He does have a 415 xWOBA, which supports the production so far, but that's going to normalize along with the rest of these numbers. He is not the hitter that he looks like. He is a talented guy, but doesn't seem like the right day to be going there. Jordan Walker, if I'm mining shares from the cards, I do think is interesting to mix in. The barrels, the hard hits have dipped a little bit so far this year, but he's put good bat on ball at the major league level over his mix and match size sample sizes as they've moved him back and forth from the minors over the last 2 seasons. 2 home runs, 2 steals to start his year, 88 WRC plus and a 258 xWOBA. There's nothing to like there, but the talent is real. He's a righty bat. He's very cheap. So if you're going to cards, you include Jordan Walker, but you don't go to the cards because of Jordan Walker today. Thomas Segisi, Pedro Paez, and Michael Ciani are just mix and match pieces in a pretty mediocre lineup with a bad Vegas total against the pitcher that we want to roster. We want to roster David Peterson with the 23.9% strikeout rate. Pretty solid start over 3 starts this season. Over last year, 19.8% strikeouts, 2.90 ERA with a 4.10 xFIP. Was okay last season. Still induced a quality swinging strike rate at 10.9%, but just wasn't putting hitters away. The year before, 12.3% swinging strikes, 26% strikeout rate, was putting hitters away a lot more effectively. He's always going to give up a little bit in terms of hard hit, but didn't really burn him for home runs last year. 42.7% hard hits because he kept the ball down at 7.2 degrees average launch. It's not going to equal a ton of home runs, even when the stuff isn't working great. Year before, there were more home runs there, despite a 5.3 degree average launch, but that's the difference between a little bit of happenstance. A couple of mistakes got out while he was chasing a few more strikeouts. With the strikeouts coming down, he was a little bit more careful last season. Hopefully, we find the truth in between those years. So far, it's looking like that with a 24% strikeout rate. 11% walks is a little bit high, but not particularly high for him. 9% last year, 10.2 the year before. That's where some of the problems come in. That's why he's not ideal in season long. You see him on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues because he's going to come away with a high whip most of the time because of those walks. It puts him into danger a lot of the time. But against a lineup like this, with his ability to punch his way out of trouble most of the time, I think we lean Peterson here. 8,700, the price is right. 8,800, the price is right on FanDuel as well. He's probably not as high ceiling as many of the other bigger name pitchers on the slate, but at these prices, I think he's very playable. We need more swinging strike from him. We need more strike throwing in general from him. But he's good for quality innings. He's very good for chasing the quality start on FanDuel. 6 innings in his most recent start, gave up 2 earned, 7 hits, struck out 5, walked 0. 3 strikeouts against 5 walks in his middle start. He only allowed 1 earned run because he only gave up 3 hits in that one. But that's not an ideal DFS start. Only lasted 4 2/3. 6 innings against Miami in the first one. 2 earned runs. Struck out 9 in that game, but allowed 2 home runs. A little bit odd on the home run up downside in that one. That's some of the happenstance of home runs. So I think there's plenty upside. I think we could chase it for sure. Miles Michaelis, on the other hand, at 68, 64, maybe has a few SP2 shares on DraftKings, but he's very low strikeout. 16.7% is exactly who he is. 16.9 over 171 2/3 last year. 5.35 ERA with a 4+ xFIP. Plenty of home runs allowed. Mediocre stuff. Low swinging strike rate. I think you can throw Mets bats at Miles Michaelis all day long with a 4.5 run total. Francisco Lindor, pretty good day yesterday with the hit tool, up to 268, 329, 366. We're waiting on the power to arrive. We got 30+ home runs last year, 30+ stolen bases. He will be absolutely fine. 358 xWOBA. We're right where we want to be with Lindor on the strikeout rate. Everything's going to be fine. Just needs the barrels to come around. Just need slow starter. I think we can officially call him that. Juan Soto, on the other hand, we're not expecting a slow start, but I'm not worried about the slow start. 221, fine, whatever. 361 on base is around where you want it. Typically, he's higher than that because he's spectacular, but that's a fantastic on base. 191 ISO is okay. 357 xWOB is okay for this hitter, but he's better than that. Last year, 288, 419, 569, a 281 ISO, 180 WRC plus with 41 home runs in his one season as a Yankee. 49.1% hard hits so far this season is down in the small sample. So is the barrel rate. It's Juan Soto. He's going to be fine. 3,900 is too low on FanDuel. He should never be below 4,000. Should probably never be below 6 on DraftKings either. Just put him in your lineups against Miles Michaelis, who's going to be tossing him batting practice today. Pete Alonso, 22.8% barrels, 5 home runs on the season, off to a 343, 451, 687 start with a 482 xWOBA. Creating runs 114% better than average. There was nothing down there. I don't know why I clicked it. Petey, Excellent shot at a home run, 10.58 for him in the home run model, 10.43 for Soto. Lindor with a nice number. A couple spots further down, Mark Vientos with an 8.5. As mentioned earlier, finally hit his first home run of the season. Took him 75 plate appearances. He was way better for power last year in a medium sample. It's 27 home runs and 450 plate appearances. Love the upside for Mark Vientos, and he remains cheap at 3,800. I think that went down. I think it was 39 yesterday. Jesse Winker's an interesting lefty bat against this pitcher. Tons of premium contact out of Winker, 12% barrels and 44% hard hits so far this year. He's only slashing 200, 256, 400, only a 248 XWOB. He's seen no results and no underlying quality other than the quality of contact in a limited number of batted ball events. But we know that this is a lefty bat with some power in it. Over a full season, he's a 20-ish home run hitter most seasons. But against the guy, again, soft tosser coming in here with a low strikeout rate, plenty of contact, tons of home runs allowed over time. I like the upside for a $3,100, $2,500 lefty power bat here. Brendan Nimmo, you can make those same arguments with higher quality of contact. 4,200 is cheap. 2,800 is really cheap for Brendan Nimmo. 4 home runs on the board, a 208 ISO, a 356 XWOBA tells you that the 194, 253 on the front end of the slash line is just not going to last. This guy's too good. 13.6% barrels, 54.2% hard hits to start the season. It's Brendan Nimmo. Don't overthink it. 42.28 is a great, great price for him against this pitcher on a day where you want to get some Mets. Luis Torrens, mix and match quality catcher. If you need a cheap catcher bat, if you're building 30 Mets lineups, you can put him in a few of them. Brett Beatty's probably more appealing than that. Very cheap option at second base. Another lefty stick with a high frequency of quality contact, 48.1% hard hits in a small sample. 209, 209, 302. Nothing to start to his season. Just a 235 XWOB. Again, not hitting the ball where he needs to. But the quality of contact is there for a very cheap price. He's been very high strikeout so far this season. Lower strikeout last year. Knows how to draw his walks. I'm interested. Tyrone Taylor on the board for a run yesterday, I think, but very uninteresting at the bottom of the lineup against a righty. That said, against this righty, I do think you can get some shares into a abundance of Met stacks, but very low priority. Can put quality bat on ball from time to time, can hit your home run, but not a priority bat. Mets bats, David Peterson. Cards bats in small shares. No Miles Michaelis for me. All right, Twins, Braves. I'm sure the Twins lineup is out by now. No, it's not. How about that? 5 o'clock. Thought we'd be done by now. I don't know why I thought we'd be done by now. Jazzy got suspended? Nah. Just for arguing balls and strikes. Arizona scored 10 runs in the 8th. Damn, that offense is good. Pavin Smith's been on a roll. All right, so the Twins, as mentioned, against Bryce Elder, that feels like a little bit of a low total. Call up is Luke Keeschel at second base, 2,500, just 2,000 on FanDuel at second base. Come on. It's like a moderate power prospect, 15 home runs last year, 23 stolen bases. Pretty good slash line, though, over high A and double A, 464 plate appearances, 303, 420, 483 to start his minor league career, 158 WRC plus. Or excuse me, that was the second year of his minor league career. The year before, just 3 home runs, 11 steals, 288, 414, 477 over 140 plate appearances after he got drafted. Round 2 pick. Developing power, but not like highly projected in via traditional scouting. It's like 50 grade power across the board. Decent hit tool. So I think we're talking about a 15, 18 home run type hitter. Low strikeout, high walk rate throughout the minors. He's an interesting bat to add to this lineup. No Matt Wallner in the projected. Did Wallner get hurt? I noticed that he wasn't in the projected. Yeah. So Wallner and Carlos Correa came out of the lineup the other day. Wallner was out of the lineup the last couple of days. I guess they haven't been on the main slate, or I just didn't clock it. Still a quality lineup though. If Correa's in there, you obviously have talent at shortstop. Despite the slow start to his season, he's still very, very good. 9+% barrel rates over the last couple of years, consistently in the 40s for hard hit rate. I highlighted his quality 367 plate appearances last year with 14 home runs, 207 ISO, creator runs 56% better than average. We'll get back to those numbers if he's given enough time of health. That's the critical component for him. It's the critical component for Byron Buxton. 4,400, 3,600. FanDuel's got the price right. DraftKings has it a little low, out to an 11.9% barrel rate, 57.1% hard hits. It's resulted in 3 home runs, 4 steals. Just a 288 xWOBA is kind of concerning. Supports that the 215, 261, 400 is pretty accurate. 91 WRC plus. You're just trying to buy the cheap power upside with Byron Buxton, going up against a pitcher who's definitely capable of giving it up. So far this season, 9.30% home run rate seems pretty high. Last year, 3.54 and 49 and 2/3. The year before that was okay over a full sample, 174 and 2/3, 31 starts, just 2.60% home run rate. But Elder's always been gettable for runs. 4.50 xFIP that year, just under 4 last year with a 6.52 ERA in the small sample. Definitely a gettable pitcher here. So I'm kind of curious as to why this is so low. It's probably some of the missing pieces. Edward Julian at the top of the lineup, 3,200, 2,300. He's got a home run on the board. He's off to an okay start. The xWOBA is encouraging at 361, 250, 304, 385 on the back of the baseball card with a 13% barrel rate, nearly a 45% hard hit. I'm intrigued. Kid's got power for real. He just strikes out way too much. Flawed hitter up there. A lot of whiffs in his game. But if we're putting quality bat on ball for these prices at second base against this pitcher, he is at least worth a few shares. Trevor Larnach at 31.27. No quality out of him so far this season. Nothing even hiding in the contact, nothing hiding in the xWOBA. Got to just have a little faith in the medium grade power hitter that we saw last year. 15 home runs, 259, 338, 434. Creator runs 21% better than average. A very average pedestrian 175 ISO, but a playable piece because he's not expensive. Outfield is where you want to stick him, obviously. 34-28 for Ty France, who's off to an okay start, but just kind of looking like Ty France, normalizing very quickly already. 265, 324, 397. Creator runs 13% better than average. A couple of early home runs. I don't think we get too excited about that spot. Probably would rather have Ryan Jeffers if I'm deciding between them on FanDuel, especially for 200 less. You can see the power slightly higher, even though France has barreled a few more balls this year. Over time, Jeffers is going to give you more barrels. 1 home run on the board no home runs on the board for him yet. 1 home run on the board for Brooks Lee, who again is mostly just a contact-oriented hitter. Keyshawn, no sample yet, but we just talked about him a second ago. And then Mickey Gasper, mix and match quality at over 22 plate appearances. I don't think you go Elder at 65, 68. He projects out okay. There are strikeouts here. There's also a couple guys in the middle, though, fairly low strikeout right now. He's not a high-quality strikeout option. 20% last year, 17% the year before. 16% in his first couple outings this year. He went 6 innings in his most recent start. He struck out 4, but he gave up 5 earned runs, 2 home runs allowed in the first game, struck out 3, walked 2 against the Dodgers. You can forgive that start. The second start was at Tampa Bay, so maybe the home runs a little bit wonky there, but not a good pair of starts from not a good pitcher. Really not interested at 65. Chris Paddock at 6,000. There are Ks in the Braves lineup. Last time out, 5 innings, fairly clean start, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 2 runs allowed against Detroit, struck out 5, walked 2. I think that's your upside start from Paddock these days, though. I doubt we're chasing the quality start on FanDuel. Maybe some mix and match value at 6,000 on DraftKings, just given that there are strikeouts here. This version of the Braves lineup currently striking out at a 27% rate. Same group of hitters was 22.1% last year. I can see the upside. There are some dangerous lefties like Matty Olson, Michael Harris, who dips in the lineup so far today, or in this version of the lineup today. Ozzie Albies on the left side of the plate. Alex Verdugo is not one of those dangerous lefty hitters. He's a light hit tool guy, 2,800, 2,100 last season. Excited some ignorant Yankees fans with a 233, 291, 356 performance that was 17% worse than average creating runs, 13 home runs on the board, a 123 ISO. Yeah, that's not a good year. The year before, pretty similar season. Not a good year, but was closer to average for run creation at 98 WRC+. Alex Verdugo, not very good. 2,800, 2,100. He is cheap if you're throwing Braves bats at Chris Paddock, which I definitely think you want to consider given the downside for Chris Paddock that we've seen. He's a way to differentiate. He's a way to help average down the cost of these already inexpensive Braves hitters. and he's hitting ahead of all the bats that you actually want. So through that prism, he's moderately playable, but he's not in any way, shape, or form a priority in this lineup. Austin Riley is an absolute priority if you're going Braves. 46 is very cheap for him. 3,300 on FanDuel. He's already up to 284, 321, 541, 257 ISO, 366 xWOBA with a 140 WRC plus. Looking a lot like Austin Riley's supposed to. 22.9% barrels in all those hard hits. Ozuna right where he's supposed to be at 306, 477, 531. Dude just doesn't stop hitting. 416 xWOBA, creating runs 87% better than average with 3 home runs on the board. Matt Olson, people are probably concerned given the 203, 338, 344 start, the 141 ISO. Just 2 home runs and 77 plate appearances, uncharacteristically low, coming off of a year of diminished power. 18.8% barrels, 60.4% hard hits is where we want to focus. And to support that, I'll throw in a 418 xWOBA so far. Matty Olson is going to be absolutely fine. In fact, he is currently fine. He's been mashing. Just take the discount at 46.29. Against this pitcher, this could be a big-time power spot. 9.03 for him, 9.46 for Ozuna, 9.43 for Riley. That is a very nice, very affordable pocket of power. Ozzy Albies at 45.32, second base. It's very good filler. If I'm going Braves, it's right there. On DraftKings, it's right here. Stretch down and grab either Murph or Harris. $4,400 average for those bats. You can make that work. Albies 4 home runs on the board, 2 stolen bases, 211 ISO, 339 xWOBA, 113 WRC plus. The slash line will come around. He's looking more like Ozzy Albies than he did for most of last year when he was hurt and in and out of the lineup. Murph at just 43, despite hitting 4 home runs in his first 34 plate appearances and looking like Sean Murphy. 374 xWOBA, 414 ISO, 23.5% barrel rate. Most of the balls that he's barreled have traveled over the wall so far this year. Harris, off to a bad start at 179, 208, 299. Just a 283 xWOBA, not a lot of support currently going on for Michael Harris. Don't know where his StatCast numbers went. We'll worry about it later. Oh, probably because he's the second. Last year, 16 homers, 10 steals in a down season. The year before, 18 and 20. 293, 331, 477 that year. Created runs 15% better than average. That's who Michael Harris is. He's very good at baseball. Nick Allen, mix and match piece at the absolute best, and you really don't want to put Nick Allen at shortstop even for those cheap prices all that many times. A handful of shares if you're building a ton of Brave stacks is okay, but it's not desirable. Kelnick, on the other hand, an interesting mixer from the bottom of the lineup. I think you guys knew we were going to arrive here at some point. 1 home run on the board. Everything else has been ugly. Last year, 9.9% barrels, 45% hard hits, similar to the year before. Way too many strikeouts, but did hit 15 home runs in 448 last year, 11 in 416 the year before. The power is real. He just needs to make contact. Whether he does or not is why we play the game. But 2,300, 2,400 again, if you're building one Brave stack, no, he's not your priority. He's probably not in it. If you're building 3, he's probably in one of mine if I'm building 3. I think somewhere around that exposure within your Brave stacks, whatever they are. Braves bats, Twins bats, neither pitcher. I really don't see it. If you're playing either one of these guys, it's entirely on DraftKings, and it's probably Chris Paddock, which is not overly comfortable. All right. Dodgers, Rangers. Too much quality on the board in this one on the mound. Jacob deGrom, as mentioned, we've gotten just light performances in terms of that pitch count as they're working him back to a full workload. I was expecting it to go further up than it did in his last game. Came out of that one after 4 innings, faced 19 hitters, struck out 4, but walked 4, allowed 2 home runs. Was not exactly looking like Jacob deGrom. Wasn't really looking like himself against the Rays the start before that either, but he did go 5 2/3. He faced 24 hitters. He gave up 8 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 home runs allowed in that game as well. Only struck out 3. Also, very concerning start there. I think the price is right if you want to throw darts at Jake deGrom, but the matchup is not really. This is a very low strikeout team that even against Jacob deGrom could give him some problems if that stuff's not working quite like it's supposed to. You can see it's still above average stuff at a 107 mark via Stuff Plus. Last year, obviously, we're not totally counting this sample, but that's at least indicative. 143 by Stuff Plus. That's in 3 starts, 10 2/3 innings, a nothing sample size, but Stuff Plus technically does work in small samples. So I think we know at 107, we don't exactly have vintage deGrom right now, especially as indicated by those home runs, by the lack of strikeouts. Still a 16.1% swinging strike rate. So we're probably not far off the mark. It's just going to be one day where it's going to be like, DeGrom went 7 and struck out 11 hitters and we're back. Or the arm falls off. But right now, it's tough to go there. Against this Dodgers team, they're playing, hell, even like the Yankees with more strikeouts on board. I'd be more enthusiastic. This is probably the worst team that he could be facing today. But the prices are very, very tempting. I think you can walk down that hallway toward the execution chamber a couple times and probably die on the vine with Jake DeGrom and everybody else who rosters him. But man, that price is tempting. I'll probably do it 1 or 2 times in my few FanDuel lineups. Yamamoto, other side of the coin as far as price, but projects out great. One of our top projected pitchers, 10 to 11,000. There are other pitchers for cheaper prices that I would rather have, but he's totally capable of justifying those prices. Has so far this season with a 33.7% strikeout rate in his 4 starts. 9 Ks last time out. That was 6 innings against the Cubs, 6 innings against the Phillies at Philadelphia. He only struck out 5, walked 3 in that game, but only 1 unearned run. Has not allowed an earned run in his last 2 starts. That was against the Phillies and the Cubs, 2 excellent offenses. 3 earned runs allowed all season over 4 starts. He struck out 10 in his second outing of the year against the Tigers. Fully engaged Yamamoto is worth a few shares even at price. The hope there is that you keep him a little bit lower owned than he ought to be, I guess, for the money. He's one of the more highly owned pitchers, but his service, it's a reasonable enough number. It's not backbreaking ownership. The Rangers are effectively low strikeout, right in this 22, 21, 22, generally average type range, but most of their key hitters are good at avoiding strikeouts, at least sitting at 16.9% so far this year. He's more like the 27% strikeout guy that we saw the last 2 seasons. But we've got Jock a little higher maybe than he ought to be at 24.6. Last year, 23.4. Year before, 20.9. You got Seager a little higher at 19.1, but that's still a very low number. And then scuffling Marcus Semien at 16%. That's the only thing he's doing well. Yamamoto should pick up quality on the fact that Semien's been just absent at the top of the lineup. He's very cheap now at 35.25. I think you play him if you're going to Rangers against, but that 3.54 implied total in Vegas suggests we're probably not going to Rangers all that much. So Yamamoto's the play in that equation. You can probably take some shots with Dodgers, but even Vegas is respecting Jake DeGrom a little bit here with a 4 implied total for that Dodgers team that is typically at least at 4 and change runs. They're still very expensive too for the fact that you're drawing against Jacob DeGrom. It's not an ideal day to roster Dodgers. I'm going to pick up a little time by saying that all you guys know who those 4 hitters are. If you're going to the Dodgers, you prioritize getting to at least 2 of those bats. Freddie's off to an excellent start. He missed a little bit of time. Teoscar's hit for power. Mookie's done a little bit of everything like Mookie does. Ohtani's looking like Ohtani with 6 homers and 5 steals. Just go to those hitters as much as you are inclined to. Michael Conforto at 41.28 is an interesting buy against his former teammate here. Guys, seen this guy quite a bit. Not that we're chasing that, but we're chasing the lefty quality contact, 10.8% barrels, 43.2% hard hits, similar numbers over time, 4,100, 2,800 for the lefty bat. I'm interested if I'm going Dodgers. He's a good way to average the prices down to the guys that come ahead of him. Will Smith, 44.31. Excellent catcher, 367, 475, 551, a 381 xWOBA. Priority bat if you're going to Dodgers against Jake DeGrom. Tommy Edman, most of the power output so far is not real with the 6 home runs this year. The power that he hit for last year, he's always been like a 12 home run guy, but he's a quality bat. He's playable here. 4,400, the price isn't crazy. 33 is a little bit high on FanDuel, but still playable. Max Muncy for cheap is an interesting hitter from the left side with all his power upside. Still making good contact. When he's making contact, it's very high quality. Hasn't hit a home run yet, just a 318 xWOBA. I suspect the power will eventually come around for Max, or I expect that it will. Andy Pajes, mix and match piece. You guys all know who these guys are. Again, Semien struggling badly, but the price is way, way down. At worst, you're getting contact out of Marcus Semien, even against a pitcher like this. It's not like he's up there flailing. Those strikeout rates are still low. It's just the quality of contact is not there, even at his already kind of oddly low rates from the last few years. Corey Seager is absolute star, 4 home runs on the season. I think he hit one yesterday. 210 ISO, 411 xWOBA. Masher from the left side for only 4,600. Remains very, very standout cheap on DraftKings, but you're facing a better pitcher today. 2,900 on the FanDuel slate. again, incredibly cheap. 6.66 against this pitcher in the home run model. Jock Peterson mashes righties, but this is one of the better righties he's going to face. 2,900, 2,500, very affordable. 5.95 in the home run model shows the quality of Yamamoto. He's another pitcher that keeps the ball down to extreme levels. 8.4 degree average launch over 90 innings last year, 1.3 so far this year. So problematic for home run upside. Josh Young, very high quality hitter for just 37-31. Another priority if you're going to the Rangers, but not a good day for Rangers. He's off to a good start over 33 plate appearances. 305 xWOBA, but suggests it'll cool a little bit in the triple slash, but the power is real. 7 home runs in a small sample last year, 23 in 515 very good plate appearances the year before. Dustin Harris, cheap mix and match outfielder. Probably not the day to roster him against Yoshi Yamamoto. Jake Berger, if you're fishing for power upside at first base for cheap, if you're stacking Rangers, not a one-off quality first baseman with the way he's going right now against this pitcher, against his ability to suppress power, because we're just home run hunting with Berger. 5.37, only halfway to the magic number. Jonah Heim, mix and match Leota Tavetta, same thing, only if you're really stacking up Rangers and only if you're building a lot. Heim does have true catcher power. 12.1% barrels so far. He's hit 3 home runs over 45 plate appearances. He's been good out of the gate. 233 ISO, 331 xWOBA. Probably your priority bat down lineup. Yamamoto. DeGrom. Never hesitated saying that name that long. Dodgers, Rangers. And the bats are... Dodgers aren't off the board. Rangers are closer to off the board. It's difficult to suppress the Dodgers, even with Jake DeGrom. Athletics lineup is in. Keep in mind, by the way, that this game is postponed, so we only have 3 to go. I know we're taking a long time, guys. I really appreciate everybody who's here hanging out. We're meandering our way through this slate. Although, we're still under 2 hours. I did say we were going to take about 2 hours to get through. So the A's, just a 335 implied total. Could this be the day that somebody shuts down these Oakland A's? Look at all this power. Look at those 9 home runs. Son of a bitch. 446 xWOBA for Tyler Soderstrom. I love it. Kid's mashing. 20.7% barrels, 53.4% hard hits. Strikeouts down at 18.5% from the small sample numbers from the previous seasons. Love, love, love the lefty bat. 49-37. The only issue is that Freddie Peralta's on the mound. Freddie's very good. Freddie's striking out 30% of hitters over 23 and a third in 4 starts so far this season. 8% walk rates, right around where you typically find Freddie. 16.4% swinging strike is very appealing against a lineup that does still have some free swinging qualities despite suppressing strikeouts to 17.9 so far this year. Some of that is illusory around some of those bottom end hitters. There are Ks in the top end hitters, as you can see, all 4 of those top hitters last year. That's an average of a 26.2% strikeout rate. Freddie could punch his way through those guys a few times. Last year, Freddie had a 27.6% over 173 and 2/3, 3.68 ERA with a 3.93 xFIP. Does allow a little bit of power, which could be problematic against this squad. You make a mistake to any of these top few hitters that I was just highlighting for the Ks, and it's going back the other way. That's why you got 3 guys above an 8 and Brent Rooker coming in at a 10. Soderstrom, the model only partially knows about those 9 home runs so far. If you gave it full credit for those 81 plate appearances, it would be dramatically off to the moon the other way. So you got to give it time, going back to that Memorial Day thing. Jake Swales points out Peralta 38% strikeout rate against righties. Love it. Anthony Taylor's going the other way, though. Likes the A's bats. Yeah, look, it's not a have-to situation where it's like for every Freddie you want 3 shares of A's, like I said about whoever earlier. But I do think the A's are on the board. And if people aren't going to go there with that low total, I'm at least interested in like a 3-man of those guys. Maybe you stretch out and add like one of these 3 guys to it or 2 of those 3 guys on DK. I'm not uninterested. I'll probably have like 1 A's lineup in the like 10 lineups that I'm going to throw in tonight. But I side with Freddie. I have a healthy respect for Freddie Peralta. I think he's a very high-end pitcher. So far this season, 5 1/3 in the most recent start, struck out 6, had 6 strikeouts over 5 innings in the start before that, faced 21 Rockies at Colorado, just 1 earned run, 3 hits. That was a pretty effective course start. 8 strikeouts on the nose in both of his first 2 games, including a game against the Royals. First one came against the Yankees over just 5 innings. He allowed a couple runs in that one. Over 8 innings, faced 26 hitters against the Royals. Struck out 8, walked 0, 2 hits, 1 earned run allowed. Spectacular start. You can be in line for an outing like that from Freddie. He is easily that good. The depth is available. Quality starts available on the FanDuel slate. One of our I think he is our highest projected pitcher, right? Highest projected pitcher of the day. But again, not safe. None of those top pitchers are safe given the matchups. This is a good Athletics lineup. Wrong goddamn Max Muncy. Oh, I did that on the wrong page. That's why. It's a minor issue for what we're doing right now because his numbers don't even come up. What happened there? Oh, I didn't change him on DraftKings. They really need to fix this situation by giving this kid his actual initial. That's just so that I can upload the correct guy later. So this Max Muncy at 27-21, his numbers aren't coming up, but they are not all that great. I'm not prioritizing him or Gio Urshela. Really not Miguel Andujar, who's just a hit tool focused player right now. Even though he's at 268, 323, 339, he's been effective enough, but you're not getting any real pop there. You're just looking for him to get on base and be a correlated scorer with 2 hitters I just said I don't really want. So the focus is 1 through 6 if you're going A's against Freddie here. Again, that's pretty strongly defying one of the lower implied totals or the lowest implied total on the board, but you're going to Lawrence Butler for 45-29 if you're rostering A's. 296, 390, 451. Just get on base a few times ahead of all that power, and you're probably doing pretty well for scoring runs. 355 xWOBA. He's got power of his own. He can steal bases. Dynamite option for DFS if you're going to this team. 52-31 is cheap for Brent Rooker, especially with the way that Freddie can allow power upside. You might just pick off a cheap Rooker home run and nothing else from the A's today. He's got 5 on the season. He's got a 220 ISO at 389 xWOBA, 17.2% barrels, 50% hard hits. Getting outdone so far by Soderstrom with his 9 homers, his 315, 383, 712, his 216 WRC plus. Kid's been amazing. 49-37, very expensive already on FanDuel. Still a couple $100 cheap for the performance on DraftKings. But again, a tough matchup. There are strikeouts for that kid. He was a 24-9 last year, down to 18-5 this year. We'll see where the truth is, but Freddie could definitely set him straight a couple times today. Shale Langoliers, 11.5% barrels, 50% hard hits, 4 homers on the board, very real power upside. He's a free swinger. There's going to be tons of strikeouts. He's not going to be at 10.3% at the end of the year. It's going to be much more like 27-30%. But there's true power there. 4,500, 3,200. You play him like he's a first baseman on FanDuel. I guess you got to put him together with Soderstrom if you're doing that. But either way, first base, catcher, util, it's all fine. And then JJ Bleday is a mixer. 3,900, 2,800. Not inappropriately priced for a little bit of pop from the left side. Not off to a great start, but he's a mid-teens home run type bat with some decent contact. On the Brewers side, going up against JT Ginn. 5 1/3 against the Mets on April 12th. 1 earned run, 5 hits, faced 23 hitters, struck out 6, 1 home run allowed. That was the only earned run, 2 walks. Pretty good start. In the minors, on April 3rd, he faced the Giants AAA affiliate, struck out 11. 2 earned runs allowed over 6 innings, faced 22 hitters, struck out 11. 8 strikeouts, no 1 walk in that 11 strikeout game, 1 walk in an 8 strikeout performance over 5 innings, 15 hitters. He struck out 8 of 15 against Arizona's AAA affiliate on March 28th. So, kind of interesting strikeout stuff, maybe. 6,600, maybe worth a few dice rolls on DraftKings. 75 on FanDuel, we're probably not going there because it's probably a situation where it's all right. That was 5 effective innings. Thank you very much. Go sit down. Although they did let him pitch into the 6th in that other start. So maybe we get a little 6-inning upside. At worst, I do think he's a interesting, cheap option. He's probably kind of like Kumar Rocker was on FanDuel for a cheaper price yesterday. He's that kind of option. Maybe you hit it. I think he's in play. There are Ks here too. So far, this Brewers lineup on the top end, those 3 hitters, and then some of these guys on the bottom, that collection of guys is at 25.3%. These 2 guys will help offset the average as well as that. And then Caleb Durbin doesn't have a number yet. Same collection of hitters last year, 21.6. It's around the average. But there's gettable bats here for sure. I do think you can roster the Brewers, especially given the 4.23 implied total. We have no idea if there's any actual talent here at the major league level. Gin's 25 or Gin 25. Organizationally 6th per this 25 report, but not ranked overall. Fastball slider, combo, medium grade stuff. We saw him over 34 innings last year, 20.4% Ks, 4.24 ERA, 3.90 xFIP. But if we've developed out a little bit more to capitalize on that, 12.4% swinging strikes and able to maybe with a little bit more experience put some hitters away, 12.2% swinging strikes so far. The CSW is not great. The walk's not great. I think he's at least interesting. I think it is a situation where for every JT Gin share, you're probably grabbing like one Brewer share in another lineup, grab a Brewer stack in another lineup. But as a dart throw for value, he's there. 4.23 implied total on the Brewers. Do we have that lineup? We do not. Bryce Turang, fairly high priority hitter as long as he's leading off. 312, 349, 442. All he needs to do is continue getting on base, but he's driving the ball effectively this year. 10% barrels, way up in the small sample. 48.3% hard hits, way up in the small sample. 368 xWOBA suggests that it's somewhat real. Jackson Churio, 5 home runs, 2 steals, 262, 267, 536. The on base needs to come up. The power is very real. 291 xWOBA though. Kind of noteworthy, something to keep an eye on there. 11% barrels, 46% hard hits. Kid can drive the ball. A lot of strikeouts, not a lot of walks, just 1.2% walks. He's up there swinging quite aggressively right now. Christian Yelich at 48-34. Solid veteran lefty from the veteran lefty bat, 52.3% hard hits. The hard hits have never gone away. He's already hit 4 home runs this season. Maybe this is the year we finally get him to surge back for home run power. But he's always been an effective line drive hitter. 200-ish ISO, 203 right now, 339 xWOBA. It's Christian Yelich. Don't overthink it if you're going to the Brewers. William Contreras, 46-32, still has catcher eligibility. 3 home runs on the board, 172 ISO, 108 WRC plus to start his year. Like his brother, he's one of the best catcher bats in baseball. Or now he's the only one out of those 2. Just roster him if you're going to this Brewers team. And again, I do think it's at worst, 1-for-1 share. And between the 2, since we're just saying JT Gin is a value dart, it's probably you lean Brewers if you had to take one of those things versus the other. Sal Frelick, 39, 3,000. Off to a very good start with the hit tool, getting on base like crazy at a 408 on base, 342 xWOBA suggests that it's somewhat real, but not a driver of baseballs. Hit tool only guy, slap hitter, needs help from his friends to score. He's got a couple effective bats behind him with Rhys Hoskins, Garrett Mitchell. Neither one of those guys has done that much this season. Hoskins has 2 home runs on the board, 255, 361, 392 at 341 xWOBA. Creating runs 18% better than average. We need the power to arrive, but he's barreled a few balls. He's hitting the ball fairly hard. So I think we get there. Garrett Mitchell needs to come around a little bit more. No homers yet, just a 305 xWOBA. He's underperforming his talent. Last year, 8.7% barrels, not many hard hits. This year, the hard hits are up, but the barrels have been absent in the small sample. I think the lefty gets there eventually, but this might not be the right day for it. 3,025, if you're going to this team, you can mix them into a few lineups. And then Joey Ortiz, Caleb Durbin, kind of mix and match quality at the bottom. Freddie, Brewers bats, got to do it that way. Can't go A's bats against Freddie when the Brewers are showing 4+ and they're at 3.35, but I wanted to. So Freddie, Brewers bats, A's bats, JT Gin darts. 2 games to go. Pods, Astros. Getting through. We got both these lineups. Kind of know what they're going to look like already. This is a game where we are mostly considering bats. Ryan Gusto on the hill for the Astros. Kyle Hart on the mound, going the other way for the Pods. Gusto has made 6 appearances this year, but only 1 start. He went 4 innings. That was his most recent appearance. It was on the 12th. He faced the Angels for 4. Lost the game, faced 17 hitters, 3 earned runs allowed, did strike out 6. Walked 1, allowed a homer. Struck out 4 in 2 different relief appearances. One was a 2-inning appearance. One was a 3-inning appearance. Struck out 4 of 11 in that one, 4 of 8 in the other game. That was the only other appearance in which he's allowed an earned run, so the numbers are going to look better than he probably actually is. 3.0 ERA, but a 3.40 xFIP, just a 1.0 whip on the nose. Swinging strikes are at 15.8%. Strikeout rate, obviously, 31.9 is a monster. I just don't think we're getting much in terms of innings. I think I just let the model sit at the 4.5 that it defaults to if it doesn't know enough. I think that's where we're just looking at this kind of a ceiling. If he goes 5 and gets you the win on DK, then maybe there's a little more meat on the bone. I don't think we're getting a quality start over 6 on FanDuel. You might have a better shot at a quality start with Kyle Hart. He did go 6 in his most recent outing. One hitter, faced 19 Rockies, but that's the Rockies. Struck out just 4, walked 0. Game before that, he faced the Cubs at Chicago. He lasted 2/3 of an inning, gave up 5 earned runs on 2 hits, struck out 0, and walked 4. Problematic start. 5 innings, struck out 4. So we're talking about a fairly low strikeout option against a very, very good lineup in a home game with a 4.99 implied total, pushing nearly 5. I think we just lean Astros here. Think we lean Padres, think we lean Astros. Let the field roster these pitchers. I really don't see it. If you're going Pods at a 4.11 implied total, Fernando Tatis, always a good starting point. 6 home runs, 6 steals. The running is great. Love to see this player running again. 275 ISO, a 483 xWOBA, creating runs 94% better than average. 18% barrels. He's an absolute superstar. Very expensive, but a great way to start a Padres stack. And you average down immediately around Xander Bogaerts at 42.28, around Luis Arraez at 38.26 with his ridiculous hit tool. Manny Machado is expensive, but you want Manny in that stack. He's your second highest priority bat in this lineup. I was only skipping him to illustrate the ease at which you can average down even the 2-man price. 62.54. We're starting at 58, but we build in 1, 2, and let's say Gavin Sheets with outfield at 33. We're already down to 45.80. So it's not the easiest fit in the world, but you're getting Tatis, you're getting Manny Machado, you're getting 3 very good options around them. And it averages the price right down to playable levels. So easy team to work with here. You get pretty good positional spread across that same collection of guys too. First base, third base taken care of, shortstop taken care of with a very effective option for a good price at 4,200, and then a super expensive outfielder and a moderately priced outfielder. I like how that comes together. On FanDuel, same collection of hitters. You can do this exact same exercise. Comes down just to 3,400, which is probably slightly higher than what that DK number was relatively, but not crazy. That's very playable given how FanDuel pricing comes together this year so far. Arraez just at 275, 306, 388. That average will come up. Hasn't really been driving the ball, but that's not really his game. Zero barrels, 1.6 last year, 21.3% hard hits, 23.1. All we're looking for is singles and getting on base and setting the table, which is why you should be hitting leadoff instead of second, but whatever. Manny Machado has a pair of home runs. He's also slashing 324, 392, 521 with a 369 xWOBA. Looking great. Looking like Manny Machado is supposed to look. 55.2% hard hits. I'm confident we'll see more home runs come as the season goes along. But right now, I think this is an ideal start for Manny Machado. This looks really, really good. 258, 359, 349 from Xander Bogaerts. 4 steals that came early. The on-base skills have been great, but a 314 xWOBA is right around the average. Just 104 WRC plus. We're getting more average performance from Bogaerts these days, but 42.28, he's kind of priced like that. Second base is better than shortstop for him, but he's playable at either position. I think the home runs will eventually come around. He'll hit like 12 this year overall. I think he might steal some more bases. He'll continue to get on. He's always been a good source of OPS. I'm encouraged by the start from Bogaerts too. Sheets with a pair of home runs, very good slash line over 51 plate appearances, solid 347 xWOBA to suggest that he could continue it. He has not hit the ball as hard the last 2 years as he has so far this year. I don't suspect that the slash line is going to continue. Last year in 501 plate appearances, he only hit 10 home runs. He had 10 the year before in just 344 opportunities, though. Year before that, 15 in 410. So we're talking about, if you give him 600 plate appearances, most years probably an 18 to 22 home run total. For 33.27, that's playable. 5.42 in the home run mall. That's about what that is. Jose Iglesias, Jason Hayward, Tyler Wade, Martin Maldonado down lineup. Mix and match pieces all. There's no real appeal around Iglesias except for a little bit of hit tool. You have to hope to get him on base and then have somebody else behind him do something, which is not ideal with those hitters. Hayward, 1 home run on the board, 255 xWOBA, kind of diminished from the bounce back that we saw late career with the Dodgers. I don't expect much from Jason Hayward going forward. Tyler Wade has never been a bat at the major league level, just cheap. Martin Maldonado will hit you the occasional infrequent home run. He's got 1 on the board. He's got a 315 xWOBA. He looks a lot like Martin Maldonado. I do think he's probably your best mixer if you're going to those Padres and you need to go down that far. And he's very cheap at the catcher spot. So he's like filler at worst, 4.63 in the home run model. The Astros have the deeper of these two lineups. Jose Altuve remains a star, whether you put him at second base or the outfield, it doesn't really matter. 3 homers, 3 steals. 249 xWOBA is concerning to start his season, but I think he's the kind of player that will defy that, regardless, and then it'll just come up commensurate with what the actual performance looks like. But it's something to keep an eye on. 126 WRC plus, 5% barrels, 36.7% hard hits is part of that xWOBA equation. Isaac Paredes, we've talked about him a lot. He's hitting the ball fairly hard, 45.1% hard hits. The 3 home runs came in 3 straight games in their last homestand. As long as they're at home, you can expect a little bit of power upside. And as somebody pointed out in chat, you can definitely expect him to get on base, foul pitches off, see a lot of pitches, draw his walks. That's always what he's been good at. What I was always trying to point out when I'm railing against him as a high quality option is that he's a deceptive power hitter because all he does is launch balls into that left field pull side corner. But this is the best park in baseball for him to do that. Jordan Alvarez, just ignore the slash line right now. It's way out of whack. 398 xWOBA is where to focus. 2 home runs on the board, 15.2% barrels, 47.8% hard hits. He will be perfectly fine. One of the best left-handed hitters in baseball, one of the best power hitters in baseball. Christian Walker, very weak start for him. 306 xWOBA, something to keep an eye on. Hasn't really been mashing the ball. Barrels are down in the small sample. Hard hits have been down in the sample. Strikeouts, most concerningly, way up after bouncing upward last year. 2 years in a row, he was down around 20%. Spiked up by about 5 points last year, and we're up another 5 so far this year. That's going to be concerning if he's not putting bat on ball with the frequency that he used to. He was like if the ceiling caves in, call 911. I don't know what the hell that noise was. So if there's more whiff in his game this year, it's going to be concerning around the power output. But right now, it's just something to watch. 154, 267, 215 with 1 home run. Not the start they were hoping for, but he's very cheap now because of it at 4,2,600 against this pitcher. Could tee off against the lefty. 9.48 in the home run model is not incorrect. Jeremy Pena's an average shortstop, 36, 3,000. He's playable, but he's not a priority in any way. 3 home runs, 4 steals. 393 xWOBA is appealing, though. Has been driving the ball somewhat effectively, 13% barrels, 51.9% hard hits, getting a little bit unlucky, but I think that normalizes just down to where we've seen him. 15 homers, 20 steals. He's good, not great. 100 average, 100 WRC plus, right on the league average. Johnny Diaz is way better than what we've got from him this season. You guys have heard me rant and rave about how good a hitter this kid is. We saw it all of last year. He finished at 299, 325, 441. He hit 23 home runs in just 377 plate appearances the year before, so there's more power upside. 12% barrels. Strikeouts are up. Seems to be pressing a little bit at the plate right now. Just 1 home run on the board. I think he's going to be perfectly fine. I think everything comes around. There's really no number I can point to right now on this screen that will indicate that. You just got to trust me. 3,300 is too cheap for that kid on DraftKings. If you're playing on DK and you're rostering Astros, that is an ultra high priority bat to work into those stacks because of that catcher eligibility at that price for that quality bat. On FanDuel, mix and match your way between him and Christian Walker. That's a fair compromise. Brendan Rodgers, not much quality on the board so far this year. Can still drive the ball effectively, though. 13.6% barrels, 54.5% hard hits in a very small sample. Was above 40% hard hits last year and the year before. So not an uninteresting hitter late lineup. He just strikes out a ton. He's drawn some walks this year, but mix and match quality at second base. That's an ideal position to plunk him into, though, especially when you can plop Altuve in the outfield. Jake Myers, Cam Smith, just mixers at the bottom of the lineup. Astros bats with their nearly 5-run implied total, followed by Padres bats. If I had to roster a pitcher, it would probably, I guess, be Gusto, given the higher projection, but I really don't like either of these pitchers in this game. Nats and Rockies is canceled for snow. Last game up, neither lineup is in. Coming up on 5:45, which is perfectly fine. It takes 2 minutes to update these lineups. They'll be up on the site. NBA projections are already up and minimal changes, hopefully, coming in the NBA. One last time, rotoscouts.com, guys. If you're unfamiliar, under $1 a day gets you access for NBA, NHL, all the way through the playoffs, every main slate for both of those sports. I'll hit a lot of the showdowns as well, I promise you. Baseball, every main slate, plus a lot of the earlies. No promises on the earlies, but I've been hitting a lot of them for you. Every main slate guaranteed. You get projections, you get the home run model, you get top stacks, you get home run picks, anything else I come up with. You get any season-long content that I create and drop onto the website. Right now, spotty frequency, but we're going to get some waiver wire content, some two-star pitcher content rolling out a little bit better as we get some more high-priority stuff coming up, like Nick Kerrs and so on and so forth. All in, under $1 a day for your money, trying to protect your bankroll as best as possible. We work excellent for people building 150 lineups. We're designed to work for people building 1 lineup, 5 lineups, 25 lineups, the people who are not looking to spend $300 a month on their DFS projections. Keep that money in your bankroll. Build your bankroll. Don't just send it out the other direction in exchange for projections and stay even. Build. That's what we're going for. 4.48 implied total for the San Francisco Giants, one of the last teams of the day, showing a little bit of quality going up against Tyler Anderson, the lefty. Some of their bats that I like are left-handed, but you get a lot of high-quality righties in this lineup as well. Willy Adames is off to a really weak start, but he is a high-quality right-handed bat with a little bit of power. And when he's coming in at 38.29 against Tyler Anderson, I'm interested for shortstop shares. That is a really good way to spend shortstop. Just ride the cold start. Ride the low prices. It'll come around. Willy Adames is too good for this to continue too long. Tyler Anderson, potentially a good pitcher for him to find out against. 4.62% home run rate so far this year, 12.8% barrels on an extreme fly ball trajectory. Elliot Ramos, that power plays up for him as well. 14.3% barrels, 44.6% hard hits. 3 homers on the season so far in an otherwise shaky start. 299 xWOBA is not where we want it. But last year, 22 home runs over 518, a 200 ISO, a 120 WRC plus. True power bat there for 4,100, 3,300. Young-Hoo Lee for 5,000, is off to a 348, 403, 652 start with a 304 ISO, a 394 xWOBA suggests that it's somewhat real. 8% barrels on the board so far. 3 homers, 3 steals. He's been very good so far. Matt Chapman at just 43, 3,000. 3 home runs on the board. One of the elite swings for swing speed and for power generation in baseball. 7.06 is just middle of the road in the home run model. We know that the production comes and goes with this hitter, but when he's going right, he is star caliber contact. Each of those 2 seasons is fantastic. It resulted in 27 homers in 647 last year, 17 in 581 the year before, despite that ridiculous contact he was making. So that's what I mean when I say the production can kind of come and go as far as the actual home run numbers. But he's got an elite swing. He's going to put great bat on ball when he connects, going up against a lefty that allows plenty of power, plenty of fly balls. That's an appealing spot for Matt Chapman. Wilmer Flores. We've been playing Wilmer against lefties for years. Multi-position eligible on both sides for a fair price. He's hit 6 home runs. That is not going to continue at this rate all season long, but the power is real, the mid-grade power upside, and especially against the lefty. He barrels balls pretty consistently. Casey Schmidt, mediocre start despite a 21.4% barrel rate over 24 plate appearances. Last year in 113, he hit 6 home runs, had a 224 ISO. At least interesting small sample production there. Something to watch, maybe a mix and match option at first or third base. Probably more appealing with second and shortstop added to that for just 2,200 on FanDuel if he's in the lineup. Luis Matos, Patty Bailey, Tyler Fitzgerald down lineup. Mix and match players all. 3 home runs across those 3 players. Tyler Fitz out to the best start and probably the best DFS option. Just kind of wish he was in a different spot in their lineup. He's pretty much relegated to the bottom. Last year over 341. Great slash line, 15 homers, 17 steals. Creator runs 32% better than average. 217 ISO. That's a really interesting hitter. He should be up here somewhere. Maybe he will be. This is a projected version of the lineup. Tyler Fitz is the most interesting option down lineup and honestly could easily be more expensive on either side. Logan Webb, the last quality pitcher of the day. By the way, Tyler Anderson at 7,076. If you want to take a couple shots, chase some strikeouts, maybe, but it's not really a spot for me. There are Ks in that Giants lineup. Last year, though, in a full sample, 18.6% strikeouts. Year before in a full sample, 18.9. Too many walks, too much power allowed. Tyler Anderson every now and then breaks off a good DFS start, but overall, not really that great. Had 6 strikeouts in the last game, 1 hitter, over 5 2/3, 0 earned runs. Walked 4, though. That was against Houston. Faced Cleveland, 5 strikeouts, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks in his first game. Gave up 2 homers, 3 earned in that one. Mediocre pitcher. Logan Webb is a terrific pitcher. 2.63 ERA, a 2.48 xFIP, just a 1% home run rate. Doing Logan Webb things as far as keeping the ball down, but allowing hard hits on the ground so far. We're fine with that. Over 204 and 2/3 over 33 starts last year. Just a 1.31% home run rate on a 2.5-degree average launch. Stuff Plus loves him. He finds his strikeouts. He's a very effective strikeout to walk pitcher, more so than a pure strikeout rate pitcher. Doesn't really get himself into trouble. 20.5% against 5.9% last year. 22.8 against 3.6 over 216 innings the year before. He is one of your best options in all of baseball for depth, for chasing quality starts. So far this season, 5 innings, 7 innings, 7 innings, 5 innings in his 4 starts. He had a big strikeout game in the third start of the year against Cincinnati. Faced 24 hitters over 7 innings, struck out 10, allowed 4 hits, no runs. Was mediocre against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. 3 earned runs allowed, struck out 5 and walked 4 in an oddball performance for him. That is very uncharacteristic. This is a high-end pitcher who is somewhat likely to give us a quality start here. Somewhat likely to go 6 and change, maybe 7. I like the option at 9. I like it at 98. Would play on either site. Angels bats against. When we're chasing power with this team, this is one of the worst pitchers in baseball to chase home run upside against. He's given up a couple this season, or 1. He's given up 1 this season. He does not give up many home runs. So Taylor Ward cut down to 3.64. Jorge Soler under halfway to the magic number. Mike Trout is the only guy above even halfway to the magic number. 6 home runs on the board for Trout in an otherwise pretty slow start. The xWOBA at 401 is spectacular, though. That's what we want to be chasing. Premium contact galore. It's Mike Trout. If you're going to Angels against Logan Webb, he's your top priority, but he's fully priced in a game where home runs are less than likely, less than normally likely for him. So it's concerning at that price, and the Angels are a low priority team, 3.61. Vegas agrees in the implied run column. If you're going here, though, Trout's your top priority, followed probably by Soler and O'Hoppe. You could argue for Taylor Ward, although I think Nolan Chanuel, as discussed yesterday, ought to be in that leadoff spot. Chanuel getting on at a 347, Ward at 272. Ward does have 5 home runs on the board, a 322 xWOBA, but getting outperformed in that department, no, actually not. 298 xWOBA from Chanuel so far. So you can flip the conversation either way you want. Kyron Paris is off to an absurd start with 5 home runs, 5 steals, but everything is already starting to decline around that overall. 21.9%, 59.4% in the contact department. That's not going to hold. Joe Adell might put up consistently high numbers like these all year, 14.7, 52.9. Given his swing quality, when he makes contact, I expect contact like that. I expect the ball to travel. 2 home runs so far on the season, a 359 xWOBA tells you that same story I was just telling about the quality of contact. Joe Adell could turn out to be very good. He's got the tools to be very good. I can't say he is very good. I also can't say that Tim Anderson is good at all. 171, 227, 195. He died 2 or 3 years ago and is just a empty jersey right now for the Angels. Renifo's a mix and match piece, so I skipped over 4,000, 2,700. You can always stick him into a lineup if he's hitting up here with the big boys, but he's not all that appealing right now given the performance. Last year, he was very good for on-base skills. As a table setter, that's ideal. 347 on base, hitting ahead of Trout and Soler. That's what you want him at. But right now, 282, mired at a 301 xWOBA. Kind of problematic start for him. This game goes Logan Webb, Giants bats, Angels bats. No thank you on Tyler Anderson for me, but if you're throwing a couple darts, do it on DK. And that, gang, is your slate. 2.5 hours in, coming up on 6 o'clock. Do I think Peralta has the highest ceiling on the slate? No, but I think he has the highest per dollar ceiling on the slate. Pure ceiling, like just raw scoring regardless of price, it's probably Yamamoto. But Freddie's probably 2-3 and better priced. So per dollar, yes. That makes sense. Carlos Soto, what's going on, buddy? Popping in at the end of the show. You got to watch this thing on like 10x speed. Monty says, kind of surprised the Angels didn't give Tim Anderson a 7-year deal with the way they like blowing money. When they signed him, I was like, all right, if Timmy's going to come back to life, that team makes a lot of sense for him to come back to life on. And like, I think given what his skill set used to be, that's kind of why they did it. But it's just not there right now. I don't know what the hell happened. Carlos was here. He was just watching on the phone earlier. Right on. So weird to me that people are out there watching on phones and stuff. So weird to me that people are watching at all. They were talking in Sam Rosen's last game with the New York Rangers yesterday. And they were talking about like, yeah, Sammy, when you started, Ronald Reagan was president. People were watching on TVs with a screen this big and a box this big. You know, now they're out there on their phones that are like tiny little things. Sammy was one of the greats. Great announcer. Hockey, multiple sports, but primarily the New York Rangers announcer for the last 40 years. Excellent. He's going to be missed. Kenny Albert getting the gig next year. Deservedly so. Kenny's good too. So yeah, Peralta's highest ceiling per dollar. I really like the Brian Wu option. Like we talked through, 10,000. I'm willing to pay it on FanDuel. You get a little bit of a discount from here. Freddie's probably the slightly higher priority, slightly higher ceiling option, but Wu is really good. And I would expect that he's going to be lower owned than either of these guys. Matchup against the low strikeout Toronto squad is a little concerning, but not enough to chase me away. Logan Webb, could pick up a decent strikeout game against that Angels team and suppress power. Really like the option at either price. DeGrom, I think you can roll the dice with. Again, you can see it in the projection. There's a bit of a cut there. 79.85 though for Jake DeGrom. You want to be there the day that he snaps back to life because it's going to come. Peterson, really interesting at 88.87. Carlos Rodon, playable against a Tampa lineup that does have some strikeouts. Ballpark working against them. Rasmussen, playable against the Yankees lineup that's got some strikeouts. Ballpark working against him. But probably, I would say I agree with where the pricing is at, that Rasmussen is the slightly safer option between the two, while Rodon probably has the slightly higher upside between the two. They're projecting essentially the same. Bowden Francis at 78.73. You could throw some darts, particularly on the DK price, given the strikeouts in Seattle. But Seattle's showing a lot of quality. That's very much a every one you grab, one or whatever I said the ratio was earlier. Elder is kind of a no. This is a pretty high cut line for me today. I think maybe you get away with a couple Dobbins darts against the White Sox, just given the matchup. I really don't like Elder against the Twins. I'm much more inclined to take Twins bats. The price is functional for a value play, but not ideal. Abbott is a big no. That O's team was playing a big time for offense 2 hours ago when we talked about him. Tyler Anderson, we just talked about, kind of a no. Maybe some darts here. You got to chase some strikeout upside against the Giants. JT Ginn is kind of interesting. I think that is our value dart that we throw, given the recent strikeout upside that we've seen, including the minors. But it's nothing for sure. 6,600, you maybe throw a few darts there at price. No, etc. And these two guys don't even exist. We would have been interested in both of these guys. Gore less so on FanDuel. It doesn't matter now. I shouldn't take time to talk about that. Let me get out of here so I can update the projections before this slate starts. What do you guys say? Coming up on 6 o'clock, handful of people still here watching. You guys rock. Hit the like button, the subscribe on the way out the door. Jump into the Discord. It's linked in the thing below there in the description. Check out rotoscouts.com. Check out eastmind.io. Check out Gundacker's site. Have great weekends. We'll be back on Monday. Projections will be live all through the weekend. We'll be back on Monday to talk through that slate. Who knows? Maybe I pop up a show over the weekend if I'm bored. No promises. But you guys are the best. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share a screenshot when you do. And we'll see you at the latest on Monday, fellas. Later.